Good evening and welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee September 20th meeting. It was a regularly scheduled Township Committee meeting. Recognize that we have a quorum of Township Committee in attendance in person. Committeeman Stevenson, Committeeman Hickey, and myself, and attending remotely, Committeewoman Fernandez. Hi, Gina. Renee Moreski, Committeewoman Moreski, has an excused absence. Ms. Ray, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, Mayor. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News Somerville, the Bernardsville News Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 7th, 2021.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we are now a couple weeks past the Ida storms, and before I get to the COVID numbers, just a brief update on how we are doing with the post.
Mayor, just we have the court reporter here. I will let you know when to start it, but now is not the time.
Okay. So how we're doing on post-flood recovery. As we talked about before, we opened up the bulky waste drop-off at the town dump for a full week. And then based upon the reaction from the residents and the fact that material was still coming in, obviously from flood damage, we extended the bulky waste drop-off another week. So that's 2 weeks of free bulky waste drop-off. All we asked for was proof of residency. And I think if anyone goes out to the DPW yard, they'll see the success. And, you know, each piece of carpet, each piece of wet electronics and furniture and everything else that's out there is an indication that our residents, you know, really appreciated having the opportunity to have the dump available. In fact, a lot of residents did not even know we had bulky waste drop-off. Yep. So for all those that were impacted by the storm, and we know the recovery is going to take some time. We wish them quick recovery, and once again, we're glad that injuries and fatalities here in Bedminster were none. Part of the post-flood activities is not just what the impact was to our residents, but also the impact to our own assets here in Bedminster. And that's, frankly, our roads and sewer systems. So I've been out with John Mance. I know, Colin, you were. Doug's been on the phone with John Mance as well. What can we do? We also had a sort of an impromptu meeting of Office of Emergency Management, along with DPW, fire, Pottersville Fire as well, Far Hills Bedminster Fire, and Far Hills Bedminster First Aid. We have some internal expertise within our organizations on FEMA applications and what can we do to recover the expenses that Bedminster went through. And since we were one of the disaster areas, Somerset County was, we're eligible for pursuing FEMA reimbursement. Now, in the past, the fire company may have gone one direction, police and DPW may have gone in another direction, and first aid may have gone in another direction. But there's a member of our fire department who actually works for another department as a full-time job. And part of his job is pursuing applications, and especially on FEMA applications. So there is a whole lot of expertise that's right at our fingertips. So we had a meeting last week and we brought everyone in and we talked about how the applications should be pursued what are the tranches of eligible reimbursement, and how the applications should be prepared. And both looking at the expenses that we went through, the damage to our equipment, as well as steps that we may need to take in weeks after, and frankly, the months after. So one of the things we talked about is you drive along our dirt roads and you'll see that in some places, you got a 3-foot gully on your left and you got a 3-foot gully on your right. And that gully goes for about a half mile. And then, well, geez, where did all that sediment go? Well, it went to our streams and our ditches, creeks, and the rivers. And so there'll need to be some action taken so that the next time we have a storm, that material doesn't exacerbate the flooding situation. So I think we had a really good meeting, and we have actually a follow-up. I'll sort of jump ahead to some of our next discussions with OEM on running a tabletop drill. And while we were preparing for the tabletop drill, we had a real drill, and that was the Ida storm. So we're going to have follow-up meetings, and then we actually have another follow-up meeting with the FEMA teams, and we're going to make a decision about whether we all file under the umbrella of Bedminster Township, or do those individual organizations file by themselves. But as long as I want to make sure that we all use the right language and the right drafting, so that to the extent that there are consistencies between the submissions, that we have them in place. And so that's a little update on our flooding and Ida situation. COVID numbers, September 20th, our COVID positive cases in Bedminster from the beginning when positive cases were first being reported. We're at 491. On September 7th, when I last reported, we were at 475. So numbers are still going up. 5 fatalities. We've been at 5 fatalities for months and months, maybe a year at this point. So that's good news that we have not seen additional fatalities here in Bedminster. The daily reports I get from the county, once again, we may go a couple days with no hits, and then all of a sudden you get 3 or 4, and the ages are all over the place. We're definitely seeing some of the numbers skewing a little bit younger, right? School's back in session. Gina, as a teacher, knows that when you bring the kids together and kids have not been vaccinated yet, so you now have a population that is susceptible to that spread. So we see those numbers. We don't know. All I get are positives. Don't get the severity. We don't know if this was asymptomatic or symptomatic, hospitalized or not hospitalized. So these are just raw numbers. Make of them what you will. But the numbers are still going up. So the next thing that we've been running through are the Fax rates. So on the state dashboard for Bedminster, for all ages, and this is the first number we're going to give, is the percentage of those with at least 1 dose. So for J&J, that might be a full regimen, and for Moderna and Pfizer, that is just 1 dose. So all ages, so including those who are not eligible for the vaccine. So all ages, 76%. From that number is up from 72% 4 weeks ago. 18 and up. So now we're into the age range that is eligible for vaccinations. 86%. So Bedminster residents, 86%. That's up from 81% 4 weeks ago. 30 and over, same, 86%. 4 weeks ago, it was at 82%. 65 and over, well, now we're at 107%. 4 weeks ago, that was 102%. So once again, the numbers are what they are. They're coming from the state dashboard. It's based upon 2010 census data. The dashboard gives lots of explanations as why you might see numbers over 100%. So I don't necessarily look at these numbers as gospel truth, but certainly from a relative position that Bedminster is doing well, and the age range that is most vulnerable to the COVID disease itself is doing well with the highest Fax rate percentage. That was 1 dose. For those who have completed their vaccination regimen, that's the 2 dose. For Pfizer and Moderna, all ages 70%, 18 and over 79%, 30 and over 79%, 65 and over 101%. So there's still a gap between 1 dose and the 2 dose. And it's not mandated here in Bedminster, here in the government offices. However, what we do know is that vaccinations, they work. There are breakthrough cases for sure, but the vaccines, they mitigate symptoms, and they certainly reduce the risk of hospitalizations and fatalities. So from my perspective, we'll continue to urge folks to get the vaccine. I will be reaching out to our contacts at Somerset County to bring back the vaccinations that we offered at the farmers market last month. And plan is to, certainly I would see if we do get FDA approval on the 3rd dose or the boosters. Sometimes you hear them used interchangeably, sometimes differently, that we would expect to get some good participation if we do that at the farmers market again. And also flu shots, right? So it's anticipated to be a bad flu season because last year, no one saw each other and people were wearing masks. So whether that put the flu numbers down, well, the flu is out there. I think we're in flu vaccine season now, and we are working with Somerset County to bring a flu clinic here to Bedminster. And I think we're still waiting on some dates, but it looks like it'll either be in the municipal complex or DPW with the fire department. So it'll be somewhere here in Miller Lane. Okay, that's it for those updates. Public comments. Do we have any member of the public wishing to make a comment? If you are here to make a public comment, you can come on up now. If you are participating by phone or Zoom, if you're participating by phone, dial *9 and you'll be put into queue for public comment. If you're participating by computer on the Zoom committee meeting, scroll down to the bottom of the screen, put your cursor over participants, and then click on raise hand. And once again, you'll be put into queue for announcement. Ms. Ray.
I'm not seeing any comments, Mayor.
All right, well, let's move on. Approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes to approve. September 7, 2021, Township Committee meeting and the September 7, 2021 executive session. Any comments regarding those minutes? If not, may we have a motion to approve both minutes?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, public hearing. So we have a public hearing tonight.
Miss Court Reporter, you can start with your taking down testimony.
I'm sorry, before we begin, may I just get names, please, of who is sitting at the dais? I can't see the nameplate so far away.
Okay.
I am John Bellardo, Belardo. I am the township attorney.
Thank you.
This is Lawrence Jacobs, Bedminster Mayor.
Thank you.
This is Colin, C-O-L-I-N, last name is Hickey, H-I-C-K-E-Y, member of the Township Committee.
Thank you.
Good evening, Doug Stevenson, Stevinson, Township Committee, Bedminster.
Thank you very much.
And we also have with us tonight, I don't know if you can see her from your point, Robin Ray, who is the Township Administrator and Township Clerk. we have our township zoning officer, Susanna Garris, with a Z. We have Ken Rogers, who is our construction code official and participating remotely. Gina, do you want to identify yourself as a township committee woman?
Yes, Township Committee Woman Gina Lisa Fernandez, LISA-FERNANDEZ.
Thank you very much.
And if you have any questions or somehow cannot hear us or understand us at any point, by all means, please point that out and we'll attempt to speak more clearly.
Thank you.
Okay, so this public hearing is, we'll just read it from the agenda. Oaks Developers 1K Plan. Trustees Jorge Viturera and Carrie Brennan were being cited in violation of Section 3-19 Property Maintenance VN Village Neighborhood Zone for Block 57, Lot 14, 261 Route 202-206, Pluckman, and Block 57, Lot 15, 255 Route 202-206 in Pluckman. So this is the first action that Bedminster Township is taking under this property maintenance ordinance that we had passed a few years ago. And the ordinance was passed specifically to deal with situations where in our village neighborhoods, essentially our town centers, where buildings were in states of disrepair that presented problems for the community, eyesores, dangerous and safety situations. And this property has been the subject of some concern for a while. And Township Committee and our zoning officer and construction code officer have inspected the property. I know a lot of us have inspected the property, and all our residents certainly drive by it, walk by it. And so the question before us tonight is using township funds to take affirmative action to address the situation that's out there, right? And that could be in the form of mitigation, landscaping, housekeeping situations, all the way up through demolition. So with that,
Yes.
I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Bellardo to walk us through the public hearing process itself.
Thank you, Mayor. And being that the reporter is remote, we will be marking the exhibits tonight, and we will be noting on the exhibits both the date, and the person offering the exhibit will affix his or her initial. So just the first exhibit is Exhibit 1, excuse me, which was a resolution 2021-112. It was a resolution that was adopted by this Township Committee on August 2nd, 2021. And it relates to the first property, which is Block 57, Lot 14, 261, Route 202/206. I'm going to mark that as Exhibit 1. Just by way of background, the resolution indicates that the owners of this property, as the subsequent property, which is Lot 15, have been Jorge L. Viturera, JORGEL period Viturera, V as in Victor, ITUREIRA, and Kerry with a K, L period Brennan. And they are trustees of the Oak Developers 1K, that's one numeral K plan. We've referred to them as owners, and they've been owners of both properties since April 1, 2015. The resolution notes that this particular property has been in violation since at least August 20th of Section 319, which is, as the mayor previously noted, our property maintenance VN Village Neighborhood Zone Ordinance. The resolution also indicates the township efforts to have the owners comply previously with the ordinance have failed, since the owners have refused or neglected or otherwise determined not to remediate and comply. The township zoning officer, at the time of passage of this resolution, conducted an inspection of this particular property and determined, as of the date of this resolution on August 2nd, 2021, There were numerous violations of the Section 319 ordinance, including but not limited to deteriorating paint, deteriorating siding, overgrown landscaping and shrubs, and with this particular property, an open window, which constitutes a fire hazard. I'm now going to mark as Exhibit 2 a very similar resolution for the abutting property owned by the owner, Block 57, Lot 15, 255 Route 202-206. A similar resolution, again, indicating the lack of compliance by the owners with respect to remediation of the property, and indicating with respect to this particular property, while it also has deteriorating paint, deteriorating siding, overgrown landscaping and shrubs, this particular property has exterior stairs and guardrails that are missing and or falling apart, as had been noted by our construction official, Mr. Ken Rogers, and also that ingress and egress from side and rear doors are unsafe or impossible, also as noted by Mr. Rogers as our Bedminster construction official. Both resolutions noted as Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2 in order to comply with the due process standards of our ordinance and afford the owners at least 30 days notice of this particular hearing, indicated that the township would effectuate service by as many means as possible. And so both Mr. Vitarera and Ms. Brennan were served by FedEx certified mail personal process server. And there were also laminated copies of the resolution that were affixed to the front door of both residents. And Ms. Ray, you would indicate that Ms. Brennan received the FedEx and signed for the certified mail, correct?
That is correct.
And I would indicate that a process server also served a copy of the resolutions on Ms. Brennan on, let me see, August 6, 2021. I should note, and we'll hear testimony later from Mr. Rogers, that there were unsafe structure notices sent out. Those were included with these resolutions, so both owners were served with those. Now, with respect to Mr. Vitarera, Ms. Ray, it's my understanding that the FedEx was received. Is that correct?
That is correct.
However, the owner failed to sign for the certified mail return receipt requested. Is that also correct?
That's correct.
And that's according to your records.
Yes.
Okay, and I would also indicate that we were told by the process server that when he attempted to serve these on Mr. Vitarera at the address, an address that is listed with the municipality for receipt of tax bills, which is 107 Wartburg, Wartburg Avenue, apartment 6, Copiague, Copiague, New York 11726, that the individual answering the door indicated that Mr. Vidatora, or at least this individual asserted, no longer lived there and refused to accept service. Notwithstanding, we have had acknowledgement by Mr. Vidatora that he is aware of this hearing tonight. There was a letter received by his attorney last Friday, Ms. Ray, from Mr. Blount, Blount, indicating knowledge of the hearing and apparently requesting an adjournment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you also received a telephone call from Mr. Vidatora, was it today?
Yes.
And he also indicated to you an awareness that this hearing was taking place, correct?
Yes, he did.
And you indicated, even though he requested an adjournment, that you could not give an adjournment, that adjournments are only possible from this body, the Township Committee, as a collective body. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I will also indicate that Mr. Vitarera was aware of the hearing because he called my office last Friday and similarly requested an adjournment. And I indicated at that time that this hearing would proceed tonight, and that as a township attorney, I had no ability or authority to grant adjournments, that only the Township Committee could do so. And lastly, with respect to service, would you confirm, Ms. Ray, that these laminated notices were posted on both buildings?
Yes,
And they in fact remain posted there to this date, correct?
yes.
Okay. So where we are at tonight under section 319 of our ordinance, and I will quote the section, is that since there was a failure by the owners, the LLC and both members to remediate, section 3-19.6 small b period indicates that the property owner shall be entitled to a hearing before the township committee. That is the hearing that will be conducted tonight. Service duly notice of the hearing shall be made upon such owner by the township as previously indicated. Service was duly effected and in fact acknowledged. Service would indicate the remediation action that could be taken. That is contained within both resolutions. So under subsection small d, a public hearing is held tonight by the township committee, at which time, after the presentation of evidence by the township zoning officer and the property owner, it may, if the evidence warrants it, adopt a resolution authorizing the remediation of the condition in accordance with section 319.7. We have, with respect to testimony tonight, Susanna Garris and Ken Rogers. So Ms. Garris, if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. Who are you?
I'm George Ferrera.
All right, you're gonna have to wait.
Well, there's a preliminary matter. You guys have to decide on my request before you get into a hearing. There's a preliminary motion for an adjournment.
All right, well, we had public comment. We didn't realize that you were going to, you should have during the public comment come up and asked for an requested adjournment, but why don't you do that now? Why don't you come up and indicate who you are?
Where do you want?
Near a microphone.
That'll be right there.
And
Yes, right
yeah,
where
and
the
indicate
coffee
your
shop is. Thank you.
your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is George Vitorera. I'm the owner of the property, and I'm here.
Oh, you have to indicate your address for the record.
107 Copeg. I'm sorry, 107 Wartburg Avenue in Copeg.
Oh, what was the address again? 107?
107 Wartburg Avenue, just like Mr. Let me get my glasses out. Mr. Bellardo said earlier.
Okay.
And you live in apartment 6.
That's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
So I had asked the township committee, because my attorney could not be here, for an adjournment. And part of the reasons included in the letter were because we had filed an application for the properties to be redeveloped. I don't know how much of the history you know of the property. When I bought it.
Oh, I'm gonna swear you.
Sure.
Okay, you raise your right hand.
Yep.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in connection with your testimony before this
I
township
do.
committee tonight, so help you God?
I affirm.
You affirm.
Yes, I do.
Good enough, you're sworn.
So the state of the property has been a problem, I agree. And this is nothing new. This is something the township was aware when I bought the property, because it was dilapidated at that time. And so back in 2016, we got approvals after various hearings for the property to be redeveloped, torn down and replaced with a new building. And it was supposed to be a new office building. Have you guys had an opportunity to read my letter? I should say my lawyer's letter about that?
You're here to offer testimony.
Yes, I'm
Yes,
asking
you-
a question. I mean.
They have
Ask the
Mr.
questions.
Blount's letter.
Yes.
We have the letter.
Okay, good.
Now,
Thank you.
if you're going to give testimony that's relating to what is, what the issue is,
Yes.
which is whether or not we're going to move forward on a resolution to authorize expenditures on repairing and mitigating the situation, if that's your testimony now, that should be later on. If your
No, Mayor.
testimony right now is about your request for adjournment, then you should focus only on your adjournment
That's
request
what I'm
at this
doing.
time.
But in
So,
order,
so I will just say, whether you have an approval from the land use board, whether you are coming in for a new approval from the land use board, in my position, and I guess as mayor, am I running the public hearing?
You are.
Okay, then that's immaterial to the present condition of the property. So if you have an issue to move forward on an adjournment that's going to be germane to the 4 township committee members, make your request now, because the rest of your discussion appears more related to whether or not we move forward on a resolution to use township funds on the property.
thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
And I would also note, we're going to afford you the full ability, should the township committee not grant an adjournment, to offer testimony, to ask questions of any of the witnesses that offer testimony. So, and also to offer any exhibits or anything that you wish the committee to consider, because the purpose of this is to give you the due process as required by the ordinance.
Yes, thank you. Well, Mayor, what I'm referring to, the prior application does pertain to my request for an adjournment. Because while it doesn't pertain to the current condition of the structure, and that's not what I'm dealing with. And of course, I understand that. Thank you. The point is giving a background with respect to my application for an adjournment, because I'm here by myself. I'm here unrepresented. I'm here unprepared to, I have never seen any of these exhibits. So has to be consistent with due process. I should be entitled to inspect this information before I have an opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses and consider the evidence that's being.
Just point of procedure, Mr. Vitarera, these photos were taken today. You're going to have the opportunity to look at the photos as they are introduced. There is no obligation.
I would
by
say
this- there is no obligation by this township committee with respect to this particular hearing to provide you with photographs or exhibits prior to the hearing.
Well, I respectfully disagree. I think consistent with due process, I should be entitled to see this evidence in advance of the hearing so I could prepare a defense. That being said, it's also consistent with due process to be able to have a lawyer present here at this hearing so that he could assist in my defense of this this action. And so he wrote you guys a letter saying he is unable to attend tonight. And that's part of the reason why we requested an adjournment. And the other aspect of that request for the adjournment is because most of the purpose behind this action is obviated by the application that's been filed, which includes tearing down the buildings. And so the idea of painting a building that's dilapidated and has been dilapidated for years, that is now part of an application to put up the same building that was previously approved with just some modifications and a use variance. It would make no sense for the township to consider these things at this point in time, at least to give the land use board an opportunity to look at the application and say, this application is a valid one, and we're either going to approve it or not approve it. And if it's approved at that point, then we would be permitted to tear down the structure and to spend thousands of dollars on remediation of a dilapidated building that shouldn't be standing doesn't make any sense. And so that's why I requested an adjournment at this time, both for procedural reasons, for due process reasons, because I don't have an attorney here with me, not with respect to anything that I did. It's just he cannot appear. He's the attorney representing me on this application, and he's the one that could not appear tonight. And that's why we requested an adjournment. And secondarily, because the application that we filed, consistent with the one that was filed in 2016 and approved, involves tearing down these buildings that had been previously in the same condition. I'm sure most of these pictures show the same conditions that existed when I bought the property, and I poured tens of thousands of dollars into paying taxes and maintaining it to the extent I could. And there's a long story behind what I could and couldn't have done, personal issues, but the buildings were in those structures when I bought them. They were not in a habitable condition. So the idea of now spending township money on remediating those properties make no sense when I'm giving you an opportunity to put in a beautiful building that was previously approved.
That,
Okay?
hold those discussions
Thank you.
for if and when you get before the land use board. That's
Right,
not, that's
absolutely.
not before us now.
No, I'm
So,
not-
so we hear your request.
Yep.
On due process and then on the situation you're in right now. Well, we spoke to our code. Well, I certainly, this is not testimony. This is just me talking to township committee members. Mr. Vitarera or someone on his behalf did pick up demolition permits, but no demolition permit was filed. And while there have been submissions made to the land use board secretary for revising the existing site plan approval, there's no application that's been deemed complete. So from the land use board position, there is no pending application. There were documents that were filed, none of which rise to the level of being a complete application. So whatever is happening on the land use board, my position is it's immaterial for what's before us tonight. So John, I'm not sure if you have any other comments on the due process issue.
Yeah,
The hearing itself is
the
due
purpose
process.
of giving at least 30 days notice, Mayor, is so that a person that has been cited and summoned to a hearing has enough time to get a lawyer. And if a lawyer is not available on a particular night, then to make arrangements to have another lawyer appear. It's not to show up literally at the 11th hour when we have people that are here to testify, when we have paid for a reporter, when we are ready to go, and claim that you can't get a lawyer. So it's up to the township committee to decide whether to grant an adjournment or not. You can certainly do that, or you can go forward with this hearing.
Mayor? I'm not here at the 11th hour. I'm here at the appointed hour. And my request came prior to this hour because my lawyer, my selected lawyer, and I'm entitled to have the lawyer I choose. It's not, I have to replace my lawyer because he can't make it on one particular night that was not of his choosing. He can't make it. It's, you read his letter. This is his letter saying he can't make it. I wish he could make it.
Mr. Vitarera, the
Yes.
one thing I do want to point out, this is not a criminal matter.
Right.
This is not
I understand.
this is not a criminal case. I know you're a lawyer. So these are all concepts that you're well familiar with.
Yeah.
This is not a criminal case.
Right.
Not only is this not a criminal case, this is not a punitive case. This is not here to punish you. To the extent you've already been cited violations from either code or zoning,
Mhm.
you'll have your opportunity to go before the municipal court judge, and that's a punitive case. Whether there are penalties assessed, that's in a different hearing. Tonight's hearing is for us to decide whether the property conditions warrant the town taking the necessary steps to make improvements, and I'm saying improvements, but really it's essentially to stabilize the property and address the eyesore situation, and honestly, the safety issues associated with that site. That's for us. So I want to make clear, this is not criminal, nor is it punitive. And when we even selected the public hearing, we passed the resolution to move forward, gave a little speech here about property rights, right? So here in Bedminster, we are pretty strong on property rights and use of property owner and being free of excess government interference with your use of the property. However, with all that, the condition and the long-term condition and the lack of any effort to make significant improvements, and I'm being kind there because it's deteriorated worse and worse and worse. And this summer, with maybe it's a function of all the rain we had, everything overgrown. At the same time, we're talking to owners and applicants who are looking to invest in downtown Plaquemine, in that village itself. And that property is a big concern to the other property owners, to the residents who walk by there. From us from a safety perspective, having been by there and seen the set of the stairs, seeing the liquor bottles behind the back of the building and in the shrubs, we're concerned about the situation for the children of Bedminster and any others who decide, hey, let's go to the abandoned buildings, Buckman. So I understand your issue on due process, but really the focus from our perspective is Bedminster taking government action and making that decision. I'm inclined.
Mayor, may I also add, since we've been talking about Mr. Blount's letter dated September 16, 2021, I'm going to mark that as Exhibit 3. It is a 2-page letter from Mr. Mark Blount of Chester. It was faxed to the municipal building. There's a facsimile cover sheet. I would note that Mr. Blount says in his last sentence that Mr. Vittore respectfully requests that the September 20th, 2021 hearing be adjourned. Nowhere in this particular letter, which was sent Friday, does Mr. Blount indicate that he has a conflict or is otherwise unavailable to attend the hearing tonight. That is markedly absent from the letter. And I can tell you that as an attorney, if I am seeking an adjournment on behalf of a client, I will usually indicate in the letter that I, as the attorney, am unavailable and/or am appearing before a board in a certain location or have a family matter. But there is an utter and complete absence of any request by Mr. Blount to indicate that he has a conflict or could not otherwise attend. So I'll just note that for the record, and this will be Exhibit 3.
Okay, so let's just quickly pull the
Mr.
township committee
Mayor,
members.
I have a question.
It better be on the adjournment because we do have
Yes,
to.
Your Honor. It's directly pertaining to your point you raised. You're saying it's not punitive, but you're looking to use township funds to make repairs to a property that I intend to take down. Who pays for that?
Well, let me just stop you there, Mr. Vittore, because the Township Committee has not made any determinations whatsoever as to what they intend or not
Yeah,
intend to do.
strike the question.
Because they have.
Who would pay for it? if there's-
Mr. Vittore,
Yeah.
we're not going to rule you out of order. You can't talk over myself or other witnesses. We're
Well,
gonna
that's what
extend-
you're doing,
We're
sir.
going to extend you the courtesy to talk as well. But I am telling you right now that if the committee decides to go forward, you will have the opportunity to present all your evidence, make all your arguments. We're not taking any action tonight because the ordinance requires that if they decide to do something tonight, there has to be a resolution at a subsequent meeting adopted. In which case you will also have an opportunity to attend if the resolution is adopted and offer comment on that. So that being said, Mayor.
Mayor, let me say, please, I am the former mayor of Long Hill Township. I served for 3 years mayor, 6 years on the committee. I served as a member of the Board of Education. I was a member of the squad, the ambulance squad in my township. So I have a little bit of background and understanding of the civic duties. So I'm here to take responsibility for that building. But I want you to understand also that it's got to be a rational basis for what we're doing here today. And all I asked you in response to your statement regarding that it wasn't a punitive matter, if the township committee went through the decision of spending township money on repairing the property that I intend to take down, who will pay for those repairs? Who would be responsible to pay for those repairs?
If we proceed with the hearing tonight
Right.
and a decision is made, the way the ordinance is set up is that any funds expended by the town would then be affected as a lien against the property.
Right. That's
That
exactly my
is
point.
not, Mr. Vittore, that is going far afield of the adjournment issue. And that's for this township committee to deliberate on.
Absolutely.
Whether
Your Honor.
we spend any money, any public funds with a recovery against the property or not.
Yes, and that's,
But that will be for deliberation at the conclusion of the public hearing.
I understand what
and-
you're saying, Your Honor.
And you don't have to call me your honor. I'm a mayor. I'm not a
I
judge.
could
This
call-
is, once again,
Yeah,
this is.
it's Mayor or Your Honor.
So we're here, the witnesses are here, Mr. Vitarera is here. I'm inclined to proceed with the public hearing. Township Committee, Mr. Stevenson.
I'm not so sure that what we do is going to rise or fall based on what we hear from the property owner, right? And this is stuff that is objectively true or false. These are facts that exist independent of any testimony that may be given. I would note that I read the letter that the attorney sent in, and the point of it is that, at least that I'm hearing, it's going to demolish the property. So we'll take that under advisement, but I don't see any reason why we should be derailed in going forward and effectuating safety and welfare of the structures when the applicant is saying, well, I'm going to demolish it. We'll take that factoid under advisement and continue. Well, I say we go forward.
Committeeman Hickey.
Look, more than adequate notice has been provided. I'd like to get the facts on the table, and then we'll decide how to proceed.
Committeewoman Fernandez.
I think that we need to proceed with the hearing.
Okay. John, you want to proceed?
Okay. Susanna, how long have you been Township Zoning Officer?
For about 7 months now.
And you've had the opportunity to inspect both properties at issue?
I have,
And you've had the opportunity to inspect the property recently?
yes,
When did you last inspect both properties?
last Thursday afternoon.
And you took photographs?
I did.
Okay, let's start with, we'll start with lot 14, which is 261 Route 202-206. And what I'm going to ask you to do, Susanna, is we are up to Exhibit 4. So when you present the picture, you would mark it as Exhibit 4, put the date and your initials, and do that with subsequent photos as we move along. So you may proceed and describe each picture.
I'm sorry, I just need to log in. That was the one
Got
thing
it.
I did not do. My apologies. I cannot share my screen at this time. 2 seconds, please. It's 2 minutes.
Robin, are you trying to get back into this?
I neglected to log on my computer into the meeting so that I
Okay.
could share my screen.
So I'm going to take over on Zoom and admit you.
Thank
All right.
you. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay.
So this picture, this is block 57, lot 14. It's towards the front of the house. It's a basement window that has been broken.
We're going to call this Exhibit 4,
Exhibit 4.
and you're gonna, as we go along, you're going to mark the exhibit. And again, these are all pictures that you took last Thursday.
Last Thursday, September 16th, correct?
Thank you.
Robert, we pick it up the sound on the mic, or you might have to move that closer.
I don't have any sound. Oh, sorry. All right, we can go to the next one.
That's Exhibit 4. What was that again?
That's the basement window that is broken, fronting the road, block 57, lot 14.
Thank you.
Can't get it to move forward. My apologies. So this is exhibit 5. This is the front of the house. It shows pretty much the condition, the fact that the resolutions are posted, and the fact that it's overgrown. There's bottles towards the bottom of the bush right there. And it kind of just pretty much shows the exterior of the property fronting the road.
And Susanna, when you're done with the hard copies of the exhibits, would you provide them to Mr. Vitarera to review as we go along?
Of course.
I would note they are being shown on a PowerPoint presentation, but would you pass them to
Yeah,
him if you would be so
certainly.
kind?
All right, so this is exhibit 6. This shows the back of the house, back of the dwelling, block 57, lot 14. It just shows kind of structurally how it's, broken down and not really in good condition. And I believe that's a oil tank, I assume,
There's an
underneath that.
oil tank under what appears to be is that a deck?
Yes, it's the back deck.
Okay, and what is the condition of the railing on the deck?
I didn't go up on it, but you could see it has some gaps in it. There's another image that shows the other side of it. Check forward. So this is exhibit 7. Same property, block 57, lot 14. It shows the window on the second story still open. This was the condition of the site when we were addressing it with the resolution in the prior months. So it's still open at this point. And this is exhibit 7.
I think that's 8.
Oh, exhibit 8. And this is the back of the property. Pretty much, you guys could see that the paint's going, the gutters are not really intact. The landscaping is better than what it was, but there is some garbage on the property. Yeah, you can see the windows, the paint, the gutters, and structurally it's pretty poor. We can go to the next one. This is again
This is Exhibit 9.
this is exhibit 9. This is again the front of the house, which pretty much just shows, how it's been overgrown and in poor condition, again, with the notice posted on the door. This would be exhibit 10. This is the back corner of the house. Pretty much just showing the paint, the windows, conditions, and the fact that the gutters are kind of missing.
You indicated it shows the paint. What is the condition of the paint on the building?
It's in poor condition. It's peeling. All the windows seem to have the same issue as well. We can go to the next. Yeah. So this is a close-up of the window. This is exhibit 11.
And it shows pretty much the condition of how it's been, peeling. There's also beer cans or some kind of cans inside, which you can kind of see. So I don't know if there has.
Inside?
Yeah, in that picture, yeah. I don't know if there's been recent activity, but again, with the window open and everything, I don't know if people are entering that property. So this would be Exhibit 12. This kind of just shows, same property. It just shows that the fact that the gutters aren't intact, and again, the paint and the condition of the exterior. This would be Exhibit 13. It just pretty much shows that the basement entry was boarded up, and with the overgrown bushes around it. So this is actually property 255, Route 202, 206.
Okay, so we're moving on to lot 15. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's adjacent to lot 14, correct? Or adjacent properties?
That is correct, yes. So this would be Exhibit 14. This shows the stairs that are missing. This was the same condition we had prior when we visited the property.
Are there driveways that provide access to either property?
They're pretty overgrown, so you can't really see them that well, but you're able to get in. It's not the
Are
best
they
condition.
paved, or
They're overgrown, so I don't know if they were paved at one time, but right now they're not
what are
really.
they overgrown with?
Grass, weeds.
Thank you.
So this is Exhibit 15. This shows the second story, I guess, porch balcony that the stairs lead to. And there's netting that I guess is coming down from the sides. The paint obviously is gone, but it is a area that I guess you can get to if there were stairs. Yeah. This is Exhibit 16. This is the side of the property. You can see the paint, the gutters, the conditions of the window. It's pretty poor. So this would be Exhibit 17. This is the side of the house, shows the paint, the entry, this back door entry. You could see the railing will be in another picture, but you could see that it's leading towards one side. The door was shut. I don't know if it is secure, but it's the main issue here is the paint that's been chipping. So this will be Exhibit 17. This shows the railing. It's pretty much in the same condition that it was when the site was visited.
17 or 18? Let's just make sure we're in order.
This would be 18, sorry, 18, Exhibit 18.
Okay, so what is 18?
So this is the rear entry, and this is showing the railing that's tilting to one side, along with this stairs that have been patched up quite a bit. This would be Exhibit 19. This again shows the window, the paint, and then the fact that the stairs are actually missing. With that, yeah. So this would be Exhibit 20. This shows the second story, the fact that the railings are missing, the gutters falling over there. Pretty much the unsafety condition of that area right over there. So this will be Exhibit 21. This is pretty much just showing the exterior, the paint, the fact that the stairs are really in a poor condition. And
The front or rear stairs?
this is the rear
Rear stairs,
rear
thank you.
stairs. This is the front, well, this would be exhibit 22. This is showing the front of the house, which is visible, from the road front, showing the condition of the paint and the exterior of the property.
That is the conclusion of your exhibits.
That is, yes.
What is the condition of these two particular properties compared to the properties in the adjoining area and neighborhood?
Extremely bad. Everybody's really maintained with grass, paint, gutters, signage, appropriate signage. I mean, everybody's really immaculate, I would say, compared to this property, these two properties.
Would you consider that the exterior of these premises and the conditions of these properties are contributing to the progressive deterioration and downgrading of the neighboring properties you just mentioned?
I strongly do, yeah.
I have no further questions, Mr. Federer, your witness.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. May I see the exhibits?
Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we give you exhibits 4 to 22 and afford you the opportunity to look through all of them, and then you could tell us when you're ready. We don't want to rush you.
I appreciate that. May I borrow a pen to somebody to say, obviously, it was not here to, thank you very much. So can I just ask questions as I go through this?
Sure.
Okay, great. So let's just.
Indicate what exhibit you're looking at, and you could ask
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, so I'm going to start with just the way I received them with Exhibit 8.
No, this is actually exhibit 4.
What is that? What is that?
That's something else. It's right here,
So
exhibit 4.
this is Exhibit 4 then, relating to a broken window.
No, it's an open window.
Oh, because it says broken window in your exhibit.
Hold on one second.
Does that not say broken?
Oh,
window?
yeah, I'm sorry. It's actually exhibit 8. It's exhibit 8 back window. That's right. Exhibit 4
All
is a
right, you
different
want to
one.
reorder?
Why don't you start with these then? I'll take this one back.
And we'll, Susanna, put them in order from 4 to 22. That way it'll be easier for Mr. Vitarera to proceed.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Ray, while we're on break, are there other members of the public that are shown?
No, there are not.
All right, well, when we finish with Mr. Vitarera, we'll ask if there are any other members of the public that wish to ask Ms. Karas questions.
I guess we'll leave that between us. So before I get going on the questions, I just had a couple of points I wanted to make, Mayor. First of all, to preserve the record, I want to object to the proceedings because it's contrary to my rights, due process, et cetera, because I'm entitled to an attorney here and he is not here. And notwithstanding Mr. Bellardo's unsworn testimony to the contrary, my lawyer told me he could not be here and he's unavailable. And so I requested the adjournment for purposes of preparing and having an opportunity to review not only the evidence, but to consider an appropriate defense with him and present my case. So I have that objection.
So noted.
Thank you. So a couple of questions first. I'm sorry, your name was?
Susanna Karas.
Karas? Ms. Karas, thank you. Ms. Karas, were you, when did you start working for the township?
About 8 months ago.
Okay, so you don't know the condition of the property back in 2015?
I don't.
Okay. Do you know if any of these pictures here reflect the status of the property back in that time period?
These were taken last Thursday,
Right,
so
so-
I'm not sure if
So
they
you
were.
can't say whether or not these pictures are comparable to the way the property existed back in 2015?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. This picture number 4, let's start with that, the broken window. How is it broken exactly? There's no glass on it, is that it?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know when that condition first happened?
No.
Thank you. Okay, exhibit number 5, you say the property is overgrown. What exactly is violative of the ordinance with respect to that picture?
It's pretty much aesthetically the fact that there's weeds growing along the house.
I see, it's
Doesn't look more
aesthetic
of a-
is what you're saying.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so,
Doesn't look like it's intended to be in that kind of shape. Looks like
but if
it
somebody
wants-
wanted ivy running along the
Yeah,
property, that would not be violative of the.
no, it's just the overall
Okay.
look of the
Thank
weeds
you.
together.
All right, exhibit number 6. Do you know whether or not this, I guess you would call it a patio, or what did you refer to this as?
Porch?
A porch, a back porch? Because it's covered, right? So do you know whether this porch is structurally sound? In other words, can
That
you
I wouldn't
stand
be
on
able
it?
to determine that.
Okay, you could not. Right. There is a, what is it called?
A railing?
No, the railing is the one that goes across, right? What's the ones that are vertical? What are they called?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so there's one of them missing, one of those
Correct.
vertical.
Yeah.
Okay, but the rest is there. Thank you. This is exhibit 7, right? Now, you changed the number 3 times here. Are
I
we
made
certain-
notes for other ones.
Okay, so do we know that this one's definitely 7?
It should be number 7. Mr. Velardo was the open window, right?
Window on second story still open.
Okay,
Correct, so that's the right.
so what exactly is wrong with this window?
That would be for Mr. Ken Rogers to respond to when it comes to open windows and fire hazards.
Okay. But is there something violative of the ordinance pertaining to an open window? Are all open windows violative of the ordinance?
No, it's more a safety concern. The overall condition of the property and the fact that the window is open with regards to fire concerns.
But
which-
in and of itself, an open window is not violated.
No.
Okay. Do you know how that window became open?
I have no way of knowing that.
Thank you. Now, I'm on exhibit number 8 now. It shows some grass. And it also shows here, this area on the right. What is that area?
Grass?
I'm gonna circle, can I,
No, you can't.
can't circle?
No,
Can I have her
you're-
circle it?
No, you're tampering with the original exhibit.
But it's her exhibit. If I have her mark it, so that we know what we're talking about.
All right, go ahead.
So can you, I'm pointing to the area we're talking about, right in here. Could you circle that area, just like that area, so we all know that this is the area we're talking about? Okay. What does that area reflect that's now encircled in Exhibit 8?
Grass?
Yes, but what, can you tell what that is relative to the rest of the grass?
It's yellow grass versus green grass.
Okay, could you say, would you agree with me that that's part of the driveway?
No. I wouldn't confirm that.
Okay. You should confirm that, because that is the driveway. That's the area that's,
Now you're offering testimony instead of asking
well,
her
I'm also the
questions.
owner.
You could
And
testify,
sworn.
you're gonna testify later. You're asking her questions, she gave you her answer.
Well, I'm trying to maybe get to her, since she was there, to refresh her recollection. If I told her that that was the driveway, would that lead you to conclude differently?
No,
Okay. So you can't say what driveway.
I would say that's grass.
I understand it's grass, but you see that relative to the house, it's on the side of the property. Is that right?
Right, it's on the
of
side,
house.
right, right.
Okay, what is next to the house coming in from the street?
Overgrown grass. Well, right now it's been maintained, but it's
Didn't you
grass.
testify earlier that there was the driveway, you thought it was, the driveway was overgrown?
The driveway, you can't really see, it's just grass that you're driving on. There's a dip in the,
That's exactly my
Curb.
point. That is the driveway, it's grass. Thank you. This is Exhibit 9. Okay. Exhibit 14, are these related, Exhibit 9 and Exhibit 14?
it's the same house.
Okay, so can you see that this part of Exhibit 9, it's the
Hold
stairwell?
on, exhibit 14 was previously marked as lot 15. Exhibit 9 was marked as lot 14.
Oh, so I think I have that mixed up then. Is there a description of which one it was?
Lot 15, you testified that exhibit 14 was stairs missing.
Right, that's what we have. And then 9?
9 were related to lot 14. You testified, to the best of my recollection, it represented the front of the house on lot 14.
The front of the house within the, okay, so it's probably this one.
So you're changing the exhibit numbers now?
Can I go over it again? Can we go through all the exhibits again, just to make sure that we have the right ones, because there was a mix up somewhere. Can we do that again?
We're gonna have to put up the PowerPoint again.
Okay. Let me just put them in the order I have, just to make sure that everything is.
I'm gonna start from the beginning.
Yeah, can we go to the beginning, Robin?
Sure.
Thank you.
And you were marking these as we went along, correct?
I was, but I was going fast, so I just want to make sure. So this was exhibit 4, which is the open window.
Wait,
That's what I
okay, lot 14.
Lot 14, yes.
Okay.
This was exhibit 5, okay,
Front of the house.
correct. Exhibit 6, this is the rear of the house. This is right. Exhibit 7, correct,
Window on second story still open?
correct. Exhibit 8, this is the rear of the house. This is correct. Exhibit, yeah, that was So this is exhibit 9. This is the front of the house.
So nothing's changed so far.
No, no.
Well, the numbers on the exhibits have changed.
Which one?
That one just changed. The one you just have to use, that one is exhibit 10.
Right, right. This is the correction one. For my point of view, not from your records. What I marked down on the paper.
Okay.
Okay, next one. Exhibit 11. Okay,
Wait, what happened to exhibit 10? You have an exhibit 9 and 10?
was just changed to exhibit 9.
Okay, so let's make that clear. What was previously exhibit 9 is now exhibit 10.
no, I marked it down wrong. It's exhibit 9. This one, right?
All right, thank you.
Nine. This is exhibit 10. So I marked down exhibit 11 for this one, and it should be exhibit 10 for my records. Exhibit 11, okay. Okay,
What exhibit is that? Then we'll go back.
exhibit 11.
Okay, thanks.
Exhibit 12, okay. Exhibit 13, okay.
13's the same.
13, 14, yep, we're good.
All right, now we're up to lot 15, right?
15, correct.
Okay, so what's the first exhibit for lot 15?
The first exhibit for lot 15 is exhibit 14.
Okay,
Okay, next one. Okay, 16.
15 is the same?
This would be 16, yeah. It's the same.
Okay,
17, okay. Okay, next one. 19, next one. 20, next one. 21, next one. 22, and next one.
That's it.
Oh, so this one is, okay. Thank you for going over that.
so in total, we have 22 exhibits.
In total, we have 22 exhibits.
Or actually, yours are exhibits 4 to 22.
Correct.
Okay, why don't you give them to Mr. Vittorera and give him a chance to go over those again?
If you could tell me to switch the slide when you're ready.
Yeah, when you're talking about an exhibit, Robin, why don't you switch to it so the committee can see it?
Is that exhibit 13 or 15?
13.
Okay, so exhibit 13, just had a question. Did you check the plywood on there?
Can you show me what is it?
This is the
13?
The basement.
Okay, thank you.
Did I check the plywood? I did not.
Okay, so you don't know whether it's secure or not?
No, I don't.
Okay. So exhibit 14,
Yeah, that's the one.
right, that pertains to the one that's marked 9. Do you know what these stairs lead to? The non-existent stairs on exhibit 14?
The second story.
It leads to that picture, number 9, that you have number 9 on. Can we mark that as exhibit 23?
What do you want to mark as exhibit 23
I have 2 extra images here.
of the same exhibit?
No, different,
That's a different picture?
different picture. Yeah.
You didn't introduce that?
No.
I want to mark it for identification.
Yeah, mark it, exhibit 23.
I don't have that image.
No. It's
to be able to
23.
share.
You
23.
guys want to pass it around? Oh.
Yeah, why don't we pass it
Yeah.
around? Sure.
And this is the second story. Orchard.
You put that on camera so the public can see it? For the record?
I do not have that image on my.
Is there somebody?
Well, wait, are there any members of the public participating, Ms. Ray?
No.
There, none, not even Jake Perry is here as a reporter, but you can attest that there are no members of the public that are participating.
That is correct, other than the court stenographer.
Okay, thank you.
Turn the camera.
No, because there's no members of the public. Okay, so I'm gonna put my initials on this and put the date of the hearing.
That's 23.
Yeah, 23.
Okay.
And this will have to be kept for the record.
Don't.
Eastern quarter there.
Has Mr. Rogers seen that?
Put it on the camera.
Okay.
Gina,
Yes,
there up on the screen on the feet of the room is a picture of exhibit 23. That's the second floor deck
okay.
or whatever room it is.
Yeah, I see it.
Staging over
Okay, okay.
the roof.
Ask away, Mr. Herrera. We're gonna accept that into the record.
Thank you. So just to clarify, exhibit 14 is what used to be staircases that goes up to exhibit 23. Would you confirm that? Okay.
You gotta answer verbally, yes or no.
Correct.
Have you ever been up at the second floor in this building?
No,
Have you ever been inside these buildings?
no.
Okay. Do you know how long this condition has been here that's reflected in exhibit 14?
No,
How about the one in exhibit 23?
no.
Exhibit 18, you said that you don't know whether or not the door is secure.
Correct.
Okay.
Can you show me what image I should be on? I'm sorry.
It's the door with the railing.
That one.
That one.
That one, yeah, thank you. Exhibit 19 also pertains to 23 and the one we showed before, which is exhibit 14, right? These are all related. 14, 19, 23, and 20, right? They're all of different angles of the same structure.
Correct.
That's all I have as to the pictures. I think that's all I have.
Redirect. Ms. Garris, to the south of this particular property is the intersection of Route 206 Burnt Mills Road and Washington Valley Road. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Colonial Liquors is at the corner of one intersection, correct?
Correct.
And across the street is a Chase Bank, correct?
Correct.
Across the street is a shopping center that contains the fresh supermarket and other buildings, correct?
Correct.
And as we proceed in a northerly fashion from that particular light, the next light that we would reach would be at the intersection if you were to make a right into the King Shopping Plaza, correct?
Correct.
And if you come out of the King Shopping Plaza and make a left, there's an Investors Bank and the Pluckerman Inn, correct?
Correct.
And are you familiar with the conditions of the buildings between the Burnt Mills intersection and the intersection at the entrance to King's?
Yes.
Maybe-
And
I'm going to object to all this line of questioning because this is not redirect. This is new information that. should have been done direct.
it's your objections noted.
Thank you.
And the condition of the buildings between those two intersections, are there any buildings that are maintained in the state and condition of these two particular buildings?
None at all.
Okay, and they're commercial buildings, not residential buildings along that stretch, correct?
That's correct.
And do any of those particular buildings have driveways that are overgrown with grass providing ingress and egress?
Absolutely.
Do any of those have chipped and peeling paint?
No.
The building to the north, are you familiar with that building owned by Mr. Malillo?
Yes.
What is the condition of the building immediately to the north of this particular building?
That condition is wonderful.
It's in a maintained and open state, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay.
Questions? Any,
any
just let me, I think Ms. Ray, you've indicated there's no members of the public, but I'm once again going to ask, are there any members of the public participating by Zoom that would like to ask any questions of Ms. Garris?
I have not seen.
None. Questions of the Township Committee on an individual basis for Ms. Garris at this time?
No.
No.
None. Okay, we're going to call as the next witness, Mr. Rogers. And Mr. Rogers, you were previously sworn, correct?
Yes. Will I need a microphone?
Yeah, why don't you
Yeah.
come up and sit near Susanna, if you can give me those exhibits that were marked.
Yeah, let me just put the
Or I
date
can
and
just grab the
initials.
mic and take it over there.
Let me just put the date.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Rogers, is your position with the Township of Bedminster?
I am the construction official, building, plumbing and fire subcode official.
And how long have you occupied each of those individual capacities? Since what dates?
Since July of 2007.
And are you familiar with these particular properties, lot 14 and lot 15, that are the subject of the hearing tonight?
Yes, I am.
And have you been familiar with the state of those properties since 2007?
Not specifically, but yes, I have been aware of their condition.
Okay, and you have recently had opportunity to inspect these particular properties in July and August and recently, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Why don't you describe what you did with respect to inspections of these properties? And to the best of your knowledge, the dates upon which you did that, starting first with lot 14.
Lot 14, I inspected on August 2nd. Took a couple of pictures regarding.
August 2nd, 2021.
August 2nd, 2021, yes.
Okay,
And noted the unsafe conditions that were around that structure, that building, and needed to issue the unsafe structure
all
notice.
right, well, let me stop you there. What were the unsafe conditions with respect to lot 14?
The lot 14 has.
Now,
the-
that's 261 Route 202, 206, correct?
Yes, that's the one that has open window above the porch, and then the broken basement window that constitutes a fire hazard in referencing the NJAC 5:23-2.32.
Okay, and what about lot 15?
Lot 15 has the unsafe conditions in that the guardrails and stairs are missing to the second floor. And if anyone were to go through the front door and inadvertently come out that second floor in the back, they would be put at risk of injury.
Did you take any action with respect to lot 14 after your inspection on August 2nd?
Yes, on August 3rd, 2021, we issued an unsafe structure notice. And that notice was served on the owner along with the rest of the township's paperwork through the FedEx and
Why don't we mark that as exhibit 24? And how many pages?
lot 14, exhibit 24.
Yeah, lot 14. And how many pages does that consist of?
It's just one page.
One page, okay. And that was issued again on August 3rd, 2021.
Yes,
Okay, why don't you provide a copy of that to Mr. Vitarera to look at? Okay. And did you issue any other notices for lot 15?
for lot 15, on the same date, August 3rd, 2021, we issued the notice of unsafe structure for the conditions of that property as well.
And what were the unsafe structure conditions for that property?
That's where the stairs to the second floor were missing, guardrails are broken or missing, handrails, tread surfaces are missing on the stairs, making the structure unsafe and dangerous to be in.
Okay, and have you received any reply with respect to the issuance of those notices yet from the property owners?
I have received one phone call on September 16th or 17th requesting a conversation between the two of us. Phone call from the owner, Mr. Vitarera.
Has there been any formal pleadings, replies, or anything filed yet?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay, I have no further questions of Mr. Rogers.
Do we need to mark it?
Yeah, why don't we mark that exhibit
15 as
20?
Exhibit 25?
Exhibit 25, and also, how many pages is that?
It is one page.
Okay, and why don't you give a copy of that to Mr. Vitarera? So if he has any questions on those or anything else he wants to ask you about your testimony, he has those. You may proceed, Mr. Vitarera.
Thank you. Rogers, right?
Yes,
So you've been around since July 2007. So basically, you're very familiar with the status of those properties since then?
yes.
Okay. Who owned them prior to 2015, you know?
Do not know who owned that previous.
If I said to you it was an estate, would that refresh your recollection?
No, it would not.
Okay. Could you describe the conditions of the property prior to 2015?
In specifics, no, I could not.
Would you say they were in an unsafe structure at that time?
No, they were not.
Okay, why would you say, how are they different from that time?
I do not have specifics to be able to explain the differences. I
I have
have
those-
noted that over the years, the conditions have progressively gotten worse.
How did you note that?
Just, I drive by that property three, 4, 5 times a week.
Okay, did you make any record of that?
No, I did not.
Okay, so did you file any notice of unsafe structures prior to this August 5th, 2021?
No, I have not.
Okay, may I have those pictures, please?
I think Ms. Garris has them still.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Did you do an inspection of these properties
Yes,
with respect to the August 5th, 21 notice of unsafe structure?
yes, I did.
Okay, did you go inside the properties?
No,
Okay, why not?
there's no need for me to go inside a property to notice or note unsafe conditions.
Did you check whether there was access to the properties? In other words, whether anybody could enter the property?
When I did those inspections on August 2nd, is that the date? Yes, August 2nd. There was no access to the front door of lot 14 due to overgrown poison ivy and other plant life. And there was no access to those doors.
Okay, is Exhibit 5 lot 14?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so.
Wait 1 second, Rob. Do you have exhibit 5 up?
If they could show me, mine are not labeled. Can you show me the picture, Mr. Rivera, referring to?
Just so the township committee can follow along.
Sure. I'm sorry, can you see that?
Yes.
That's the one, I think, yes, thank you. So. Did you try to open that door? An Exhibit 5?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, Exhibit 4, did you notice that condition in Exhibit 4?
Yes,
Okay. And when was the first time you noticed that condition? Is it with respect to the August 5th, 21 unsafe structure?
What, just for benefit of the township
I'm
committee,
sorry.
what condition are you referring to,
Thank you.
Mr.
The condition
Vittor?
reflected in Exhibit 4 is, which is posted, is the alleged broken window. I'm showing you Exhibit 4, sir. And you recognize that, right?
yes, I do.
Okay. So do you know how long that condition was there?
No, I do not.
On Exhibit 6, did you check the structural integrity of that porch reflected in that picture?
That was not a specific point in my notice.
Okay, but I'm asking you if you checked it.
No, and it looks
Okay.
like I do need to go check that specific area, as on October or August 3rd, it was likely overgrown and unnoticed at that time.
Thank you. Now, Exhibit 7, which is the window, yes, there it is. You took this picture? Did you take this picture, or was the,
That might be one of mine, or it might be one of
Okay.
Susanna's. We both have taken similar
so
pictures.
this is a picture of an open window, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did you ever see the window closed?
I can't say that I've ever noted it.
Okay, so what exactly is wrong with an open window that's cracked 3 inches?
According to the New Jersey statutes, and in the section I quoted before, NJAC 5:23-2.32, any unoccupied structure with open windows or doors are to be considered unsafe and a fire hazard. That is an open window, so it's unsafe and a fire hazard by that statute.
When you saw that, did you try to reach out to me and tell me to close the window?
I did with the notice on August 3rd.
Other than with the notice?
No, I thought that was
Okay.
sufficient.
Do you
Notice.
know the prior zoning officer?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what's his name?
Joseph Haggard.
Okay. Do you know if Mr. Haggerty ever communicated with me regarding the properties?
No, I do not know.
Okay. We're surprised to learn that he's,
Beyond his direct testimony. You're asking him questions beyond his direct testimony. This is cross.
okay, I'm glad you said that. Would it surprise you to learn that he communicated with me frequently?
Again, you're
regarding unsafe
asking
conditions?
him questions, Mr. Vittorera, beyond his testimony. If you want to offer testimony about your prior dealings with Mr. Haggard, you may do so when you testify.
Exhibit 8, sir? You see the circled area? Do you know
Yes, I
what-
do.
what that area is?
I do not know what it is intended to be.
Okay. If I told you it was the driveway, would that,
That is a possibility, yes.
you notice that grass there is shorter than the rest of the surrounding grass?
I can't tell from the picture the height of that grass, no.
Look at it closely, sir. Can you
I
tell that
can
that's
tell that grass is
closer than?
browner in color than that grass that's greener. I can't tell the height of it.
Okay, thank you. Did you take this picture that's reflected in Exhibit 12?
No, I did not.
It looks like there's an unhooked gutter. What is that a condition of with respect to the ordinance?
I am not an expert on the zoning ordinance. I couldn't answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Exhibit 13, sir. Did you attempt to check the whether this door was secure or not?
No, I did not.
Other than the broken window that's reflected in Exhibit 4, was there any other access to the building that was readily available to anybody trying to get in?
I'm unsure what it is that you're asking.
Okay. Did you try to open any of the doors or windows?
No, I did not.
Okay. On Exhibit 14, how long has that condition been there? Do you know?
No, I do not.
In question with Exhibit 18, do you know how long that railing has been in that condition?
No, I do not.
Okay, do you know if anybody can access the inside of that building through the door reflected in Exhibit 18?
I do not.
Are you aware when the last time somebody lived in these buildings?
No, I'm not.
Since 2007, do you know at any time were they occupied?
I do not know.
Okay. So prior to this notice of unsafe structure, was there any other notice given to me by you regarding the state of the structures?
No, there is not.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect. Mr. Rogers, I'm going to read you a section of our ordinance 3-19.2, small little b. I'm going to quote it exactly, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about it. We're exposed to public view. The landscaping of premises shall be maintained in keeping with the neighborhood and in an orderly state with lawns mowed and bushes and shrubs trimmed and free from becoming overgrown, littered, and unsightly where such lawn, bushes, shrubs, and landscaping conditions would constitute or contribute to a blighting effect. Okay? In your opinion, as a construction code official, with respect to the particular neighboring properties, has these properties, lot 15 and lot 14, been maintained in keeping with the neighborhood?
Object to the question.
You may answer.
They have not been. With the neighborhood.
And have the lawns been mowed and bushes and shrubs trimmed and kept free from becoming overgrown and unsightly?
Object to the question.
You may answer.
No, they have not.
Would you consider as a construction official, having experience in properties in Bedminster since 2007, that these particular lawns, bushes, shrubs, and landscaping conditions are constituting or contributing to a blighting effect upon the neighborhood?
Absolutely.
I'm going to read you subsection E of the same section 3-19.2. Quote, the paint or siding on a building shall be maintained in a condition that is not in a deteriorating state, period, end quote. Would you consider that the paint or siding on either of these buildings has been maintained in what is not a deteriorating state?
Object to the question.
You may answer.
Absolutely not.
In fact, the paint and siding on the buildings are in a great deteriorating state, are they not?
Object to the question.
Yes, they are in a very deteriorated condition.
And to your knowledge, and you indicated that you drive by this property 3 or 4 times or 5 times a week. And I want you to consider the intersection from Burnt Mills and Washington Valley Road and 206 up to the light where you turn into Kings. Are there any other properties with such overgrown lawns, bushes, shrubs, and deteriorating paint?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Ms. Ray, I'm going to again ask you to check Zoom and determine whether there are any members of the public that are online and may wish to ask questions.
There are none.
Questions of the Township Committee?
Mr. Rogers, in your professional expertise and witnessing the degradation of the property, would that typically occur in the course of a matter of months, or would that take years to evolve into that condition?
That is years of neglect.
I have no further witnesses. Mr. Vitter, testimony, please.
Well, I guess I'll start at the beginning. When I purchased these properties, I purchased them from an estate. They were not habited. Nobody was living there, and they were in totally terrible disrepair, I would say. That's how I bought them. I bought them the way these pictures reflect.
When did you buy them?
In 2015.
2015.
Okay. And so, sure, there might be some more conditions since then, maybe a few more chips of paint, maybe a couple of other conditions that did not exist in 2015. However, they were in disrepair when I bought them. And I bought them for one purpose, and that was to improve the conditions for the township. Put up a new building, tear these ones down. I brought in an application to the township, and it was approved. And
What year was that?
in 2016,
2016?
I think it was May of 2016, the resolution was adopted, granting me variances and permitting me to tear down these 2 buildings and put up an office building. We were looking to do professional offices, 4 professional offices. And we immediately went about the process of marketing the properties and hopefully getting people interested in this project so that we could finish, of course, we were in it for making some money, but also to beautify and improve.
So in 2016, you get.
I'm sorry, who's asking the questions right now?
That's the mayor.
Oh, okay. Your screen is very, very small. Can you take down that picture so then your screen is bigger?
Yeah, so just take it off share screen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So 2016, you get the approval, and I was just looking and went back to Google Maps. So in 2018, Google Maps shows you had a Weichert, 2 Weichert signs up there.
Yes,
So you were marketing, so 2016, you get the approval, you have the approval in hand,
yes,
right? So you got your site plan approval, you can tear it down, you could tear it down before. You didn't need a site plan approval to tear it down, right?
I don't think that's correct, Mayor, but
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure you can tear a building down. So you get a site plan approval in 2016 to get, and 4 professional offices or whatever, it was just commercial space?
That's correct.
Okay, so commercial space, and then you start marketing it.
That's correct.
So to sell for someone else to do the development.
No, not at all.
So
No.
then you're selling it for
No,
what
marketing it
purposes at that point?
For a variety of reasons, getting one permanent tenant or, 4. The idea was to get somebody to show interest in occupying the building.
the buildings as they were? Because you had a
No, of
first,
course
you had a
not.
for sale sign in 2018, 2 for sale signs on those properties. So I
Yes,
assume that at that time you were selling them as an approved project?
correct.
Okay, so then you were going to sell the project and someone else was going to take over and build what you had approved.
That's not correct.
That's not correct.
Correct.
Okay, so
It's
what
an
were you
either
doing
or.
in 2018?
It's an either or. The idea was to get somebody, whether a tenant or a developer or anybody interested in doing something with.
So whether they were going to implement what you had approved or they were going to go in a different direction.
No,
but you
no,
were
the
mar-
idea was.
Wait,
with
hold
respect-
on. Let's not talk over each other. Mayor, let Mr.
Okay.
Vitarera
Yeah.
Keep
answer
going.
your questions, and Mr. Vitarera will wait till you ask your questions. And the reporter is going to be very happy with me. I see her nodding her head because when you talk over each other, she can't take down. So let's just slow down a bit and go.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was open to all ideas. The idea was to get the project done because I'm bleeding money. I'm still bleeding money. Okay, this is not for pro bono. This is a business that I'm trying to, and I have hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in these lots. So, and I'm paying taxes on them. I'm just bleeding money.
Right, so I understood.
So I'm trying to market them in a variety of ways, including, selling the development as it is. If somebody came along and says, look, I'd like to develop it, but I want, the income going forward, well, give me a value that reflects the added value that I put into it, which is the tens of thousands of dollars in work in the approval process and the professional work, and the value of the lots as they would be as developed. But that was one option.
let's just,
Yeah,
so the improvement was the site plan approval and the variances.
that's an
Okay,
improvement.
that's
yes,
fine.
Yes. But simultaneously, and that's why we employed realtors in a variety of ways. And you can look at the listings if you want. There were options there. Some people would be interested in from the perspective of, I want to put my office in there. Well, we would build the building and rent it. That was the initial and primary goal. Okay, just as it is now. Now it's just the same thing with respect to residential. But that's going to be a lot easier than doing it for office. And that was the problem. The problem was that the market was glut with office space. Vacancy was through the roof. I'm sure this is nothing news to you, Mayor, and the rest of the committee. And so it was impossible. I mean, I could bring my realtors in here to testify as to their efforts to, do something with respect to this property on my behalf. I wasn't trying to lose money intentionally. Okay. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. And when it, came time to do something else, that's what we did. We tried to go in a different direction. And this process that we're in now, to get back to a point you were making earlier, Mayor, it's not just something I filed 2 weeks ago. This has started earlier in this year. We filed an application. Okay. That application was reviewed and we received comments back. I think don't hold me to it, but I think it was March maybe of this year for the application I just submitted. It's the same application, except that I had comments from the committee that they needed more information and other things. So
You had comments from the borough and you had comments from the town engineer.
yes, I'm sorry. What did I say?
The committee.
You, the committee.
I'm sorry.
So
I
this does
apologize.
not go to the board.
That's
It
good.
hasn't even, honestly, it's not even an application yet.
I should have made clear, the committee that I was referring to was the review committee, the application review committee that takes the application once it's submitted and decides whether it meets all the criteria for the application process.
That would be our planning board engineer
That's correct.
who did not deem it adequate
No, but
or
it's-
sufficient to be an application.
Yeah, it's also the planner and the lawyer, I believe, that review the application. I thought it was 3 members of the review committee. And so the comments back were received. I put the team together to, revise the plans. In fact, we initially wanted to get approval for just the use variance to see that it was acceptable to this township to put the residential units there, rather than go with the full-blown, spend.
So just to be clear, that
Yes.
the money you're putting into the property right now is pursuing a use variance because what you want to do with the property is not consistent with the zoning on the property. So the money that you're investing in the property now is essentially for a use variance to go from a commercial to this is a straight residential project. So, but our point is, and surely mine is, that to the extent that you are investing anything in the asset right now, it's not going to the physical asset, it's going to something else and is zoning.
That's not correct.
Well, so remember, what our hearing tonight is,
Yes.
this is not the land use board.
I understand that.
We are not changing zoning. The only issue before us is whether or not the property is in such a condition that it merits and warrants the township committee making a decision to take actions to improve and mitigate the way the property looks and presents itself.
I appreciate
That's,
that.
so frankly,
Wait,
and
Mayor, let's let him testify.
well, we could,
Mayor.
yes,
let's Let
John.
him testify, and at the end, we can ask questions. Mr.
Just want to
Kuzera,
give your
please.
testimony a little bit of direction
Yes.
and that you focus on what's before us.
Thank you, Mayor. That's what I'm trying to do.
Right, you may testify as you wish. We will afford you your due process, say what you want, and then after we'll ask you any questions.
Thank you. I do believe that the fact that I submitted an application, not the details of the application, is what's pertinent. I'm not trying to get you to approve my application. I understand how the procedure works, Mayor. What I'm trying to do is get you to understand that I've been working on making these changes for the last 8 months. And we had submitted the application earlier in the year. And after the review committee had its opportunity to do that, to do its completeness review, I think it's called, we went back to the drawing board to respond to their comments. We changed the application to suit their comments, and we resubmitted it as soon as it was available, as soon as it was ready. I didn't wait 1 minute. In fact, that was after my professionals to get them to understand that there is a reason to expedite. And so the application was submitted. And that application is for the redevelopment of the property to tear down those buildings and put up a new building in that place. Consistent with the approvals that we got previously, except for one thing, and that is to change from the office to the residential,
So
because
this same building that you would have, the same shape, the same exact building that was approved in 2016.
Same exact building with just slight modifications to the rear because of the residential nature. But if you look at it from the front or the sides, it's going to be exactly the same. It's only the rear that would have any changes of note because of the residential nature. And then we're going to reduce the impact of that because we're reducing the parking spaces required and we've reduced traffic. And so that was the point of doing that, because the building sat otherwise. Trust me, I didn't want those buildings to sit there. I wanted to get it done as soon as possible because I'm bleeding money. And so why I'm here is to tell you, I don't want to bleed any more money. I want to get this done, including tearing down these buildings. Now, I don't want to proceed until I get approval from the township. It only makes sense that once the township says, you're good to go, and I hope they will, I'm giving them as beautiful a project as I possibly do, that we're going to have those torn down within 5 minutes, because I've already started the process. I have people giving me estimates now to demolish the buildings. It would make no sense for the township to spend a nickel rehabilitating a building that's going to be turned down soon, as soon as possible, as soon as that application is approved. And so it certainly doesn't make sense for the township to invest that money at my expense, because if you go and paint this structure or fix the railing, and then I get my approvals and I tear it down, well, then you're going to make me pay for those changes that you've made unnecessarily. And that's my point here. My point is, and that's why I asked for the hearing to be adjourned,
Okay.
pending the application process to be reviewed by the land use board. A land use board that's already approved this same project previously, and with good reason can now approve it for a slight land use change to the residential as opposed to the office, because the market just does not bear it. And that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Does that conclude your testimony?
Well, I wanted to say a couple of things about the professionals. I think they did a great job in their testimony. And the buildings are not in great repair. I don't disagree about that. It's obvious, and I'm not denying it. It's just that they don't have the knowledge regarding the conditions of the building as they existed when I bought it. It was in disrepair back then. And so, and the buildings are secure. People can't get access to it. I make sure all the doors are padlocked, and the lower entrances are secured with plywood. And that's something I reviewed with the former zoning officer. He and I were in contact over that. And I asked him, what steps do you want me to take to do that? And that's what we did. So I listened to if I had received a call from the new zoning officer, things might have been different, but I didn't. The first notice I got was this notice right here from the construction official. And that's why I'm here today, to respond to that notice. Now, that one window that's broken in the lower level, I will fix that tomorrow. I mean, if you guys tell me, these are the minimum things we got to do, not the paint. That doesn't make any sense. Not the rail. Nobody's accessing the property. It's sealed. But so I'll work with you to make these minor adjustments pending the approval of the application process. But to suggest that this building be painted, you were talking about property rights earlier on, sir. So I don't think that would be a good way to proceed. That's my testimony.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I have some questions, Mr. Videra.
Sure.
You indicated when you purchased the property in April of 2015, and you indicated it was from an estate. That was a Hurley family estate?
I don't remember the name.
Okay, and you indicated just a few minutes ago, the properties were in a state of disrepair in April of 2015. Would that be fair?
That's correct.
And they continue to be in a state of disrepair as of today, correct?
I already said that, yes.
Okay, and has there been any tenants in the property since April
Absolutely
2015?
not.
Okay, and what, if any, improvements in terms of capital or maintenance have you made to the property since you purchased them in April 2015?
I don't have all my records on that, so I couldn't give you a specific amount, but I definitely spent money maintaining it to a certain extent. And there was a time where I, frankly, got to admit, I was dead broke. I mean, the economy crashed. I was out of work. And I almost got desperate trying to get rid of these properties because, they were bleeding me to death. I mean, now I'm back on my feet, and this is why we're kicking into high
In
gear.
terms of money that you spent, have you
Yes.
spent any money to retain a painter since you purchased the property?
Absolutely not. Why
Okay.
would I do that? I'm trying to.
You spent
tear the
any
building
money
down.
on a
Are
roof?
you going to let me finish my statement?
It was a
May I
yes or no.
finish my-
It was a yes or no
Well,
question.
not
This
all,
is- this-
not all
wait,
questions
sir.
are subject to.
This is cross.
Okay.
And you're a lawyer, right? So you know
Yes,
when
of
on
course,
cross,
that's
you
why I'm
ask,
entitled to answer.
right, you ask yes or no questions.
Right.
Okay.
No,
I
but you
asked
also know that as a lawyer, not all questions that are asked in a yes or no form
Well,
are subject to a
well,
yes or
here's
no
my
answer.
question. I'm going to ask it again. Have you hired a painter to paint any of the buildings since
I
2015?
already said that, no.
Okay,
Why would I
thank
do
you.
that?
What about a landscaper? Have you had a
Oh,
lands?
yes, we've had
Wait,
many landscapers.
wait, have you had a landscaping contract since 2015 with a
Yes.
landscaper? Okay, tell me with who?
I don't know the name of the company. I know the name of the guy who does it. His name is Victor.
Yeah, have you had a landscaping contract since the beginning of 2021?
He's the guy that's taking care of it, yes.
Who is it?
His name is Victor. I don't know his company name.
How often does he go out there and what does he do?
He's supposed to maintain the grass and the shrubbery.
When was the last time you paid him for his services?
I think a couple of weeks ago, he was out there.
Okay, after these resolutions were passed,
And before too.
okay, and
I
what
mean,
did,
if you look at,
wait, sir, what did,
I'm going to finish my answer.
wait, I
If you look at some of these
tell me,
pictures.
sir,
Yes,
I'm asking, what is the name of your landscaping company?
I'm not sure we're communicating well here. I don't have the name of the company. I told you,
Okay,
Deal
you
with
said
him
it's a man,
personally.
it's a
His
man
name's-
named Victor.
yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
what's Victor's last name?
I don't know.
How do you get in touch with
I
Victor?
call him.
Okay, and where is Victor based out of?
I don't know.
And does he go out more
This is the
than,
guy.
how
if I may
often does he
finish,
go out there, sir?
I don't know.
You
But-
don't know.
He's the one that does my prior home, which is in Millington.
The only time Victor has been to this property in 2021 was after this particular committee passed those
That's not correct.
resolutions. Is that correct, sir?
That's not correct.
Do you have records of payments of Victor that you could produce to this committee?
I could do that.
And have you retained Victor in 2020?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what does he do? What is the scope of his responsibilities? Does he trim the
He's a
shrubs? Does he
landscaper.
cut the grass?
That's what he's supposed to do.
Okay, and did you come to this hearing knowing that the committee was going to ask about maintenance with records of Victor to
No.
show this particular township committee that look, I employ a landscaper and here's how often he comes out and here's how often I pay him and this is what he does. Did you
Yes.
bring any of those records to?
You
the
know, I
hearing tonight?
didn't because I wasn't here to testify. I wasn't here to cross-examine. I wasn't here to produce any witnesses or any evidence. I was here to make sure the committee understood why we were asking for the hearing to be adjourned, including the fact that my attorney could not be here.
So if I were to ask you to produce records of landscaping payments and landscaping contracts since 2015, would you be able to provide that to the clerk this
Listen.
week?
You could ask me to provide anything. The bottom line.
Wait, would you be able to provide landscaping, maintenance, or other indicia of any improvements or maintenance that you have paid for
I'll
since
bring
you
the-
purchased this property in 2015, sir?
I have, most of my payments to the man was in cash.
In cash?
That's correct.
What about besides a landscaper, this Victor? What other improvements have you made to remedy what you, by your own
I-
testimony, has indicated has been a state of disrepair that has existed since 2015?
I secured the property and that's why you can't get access to it and neither of your professionals were able to access it. And that's because it's locked.
And after you receive these
Can
notices.
I finish?
After you receive these notices, did you contact any of the professionals and say, I would like to have you come out and walk the property with me or look inside the property? Did
Yeah,
you reach
I
out
think
to
we
any
should
of
have
the
started that-
professionals?
I think that process should have started before the notice of violations, which is the way I did it with the last zoning officer. Whenever he had an issue, he called me up and I worked it out with him. And that's why I never received any notices of violations until this one.
Here's the question.
Yes,
You got these notices.
yes, sir.
did you yourself reach out to anyone at town hall, whether it be the zoning officer or the construction official?
Sure.
You got what would be serious notices on safe structures. Did you call Mr. Rogers or Miss
I did call
Karas and
Mr.
say, hey,
Rogers.
let's go out to the property. Let's see what we could do to remedy these conditions?
I-
Did you do any of that?
I did call Mr. Rogers.
When?
I never received the
When
call
did you,
back.
when was the first time you called Mr.
It
Rogers?
was last week.
Okay, that's your only call was last week before this
That's
hearing
correct.
on Friday.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, so I'd like to add to that testimony. Yeah, I had a practice with the last zoning officer. He and I worked together, and whenever there was an issue, he would contact me, and I would immediately hop on it and do something to the extent they could. Now, was it perfect? I can't say that it was. Is the property in disrepair? I've already said it is. Okay, I'm not suggesting it isn't. I'm not trying to defend the state of the buildings. What I'm saying is I've secured them. Nobody gets access to them. There's no question that somebody's going to try to enter those buildings. They're padlocked. And, you know, the access down below is plywooded. If you want me to plywood all the windows, I'll do that to secure the building even further. And I'll do that with that window as soon as possible. Yeah, so I'm here to say, I'm happy to work with the township.
Mr.
to do that,
Vittera,
as I did before,
may I
yes.
ask you some questions,
Sure, of
please?
course, sir. Thank you.
In the PowerPoint pictures that you saw, were you aware that there were bottles of alcohol
I was not aware of
on the
that.
property?
No,
Okay, would that indicate to you that there are people on the property littering on your property and dropping alcohol bottles on your property, assuming for the moment the pictures depict that to be the case?
assuming that they depict, because I didn't see any pictures of any bottles except the ones that, I'm sorry, her name is?
Zuzana,
Sorry?
Zuzana.
The zoning officer testified. So-
Zoning officer. It begins with a C. So
Okay,
that's close.
I apologize.
So-
The zoning officer testified, were behind the window, which is the only evidence of bottles that I saw.
Have you,
If there is debris, you know, I will clean it up.
have you in your opportunities to actually go to the site seen litter and debris
I
similar
have
to
not,
that?
sir.
Never seen that.
Never seen any.
Okay. Now, in your testimony today, you had indicated at least two plans to develop this property. One was a commercial, and one now is a residential, correct?
That's correct.
And under both of those plans, the idea is to demolish these structures, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's never been your plan to put occupants or tenants into these properties?
Never.
Okay.
No.
So my question to you is, if your plan all along, regardless of what you intend to do with this property, whether it's residential, commercial, or otherwise, why are these structures still standing?
Because, sir, that would involve expenditure of monies I don't have yet.
So the idea here is that these conditions are being exasperated and they're showing because of your inability to fund?
No, I can fund that now. And that's why the application for the demolition permits.
I understand,
Taken.
They're pending, you said.
Accepting,
but I understood you to be saying though,
Yeah.
that you are waiting for an approval in order to undergo the demolition. So my question to you is, if we were to decide that, you know what, we're going to demolish these for you and we're going to lien for the cost of that, would you have a problem with that?
if you give me a reasonable estimate, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't care who does
We
it.
would follow the bid. We'd go out and get multiple bids and take the lowest bidder, the lowest responsible bidder and demolish the
Oh.
structures.
You know, I worked, you heard me say that I was former mayor of my township and on the board committee. So as soon as somebody hears a bidding process with respect to a township, you're going to get a big number compared to what I can get as a.
But do you understand our position? You've
I
had 6
understand.
years.
So give me an opportunity.
You've had 6 years, sir,
Yes,
to take care of a condition that you said you purchased knowing it was a bad condition.
yes.
In 6 years, you prosecuted multiple applications with township, at all times contemplated demolition of these two structures, and yet they still exist. And now we're sitting here talking about the condition of these two structures. Would you agree with me that if the structures did not exist, we would not be having this conversation?
Here's what I suggest, Mr. Committee Person. I will, if you are telling me demolish them now, which this notice of unsafe structure does not say, because
It does not say that. No, it
Correct.
doesn't.
but if you're telling me that this is a solution that the township committee would like sooner rather than later, I'll undertake to do that even before the application is approved. And hopefully, it'll all work out.
What do you
Mr.
mean by that?
Vitarera, just to follow up on Doug's questions, and Doug, if you don't mind, what I find troubling is some of the statements you have made that the demolition would be pending approval of this use variance. The use variant, you already have one approval. You didn't demolish the buildings. It might have helped you sell the project if the buildings were gone, but all right, that was your decision. Now you're telling us, and before this statement you just made, that your plan would be to demolish the building pending the approval on the use variance. If you don't get the use variance, you're right back in the same situation. And we've said this about our own assets. The own assets that Bedminster owns or has owned, which includes a number of buildings across the town. I'm sure Long Hill had the same situation. Abandoned buildings don't get better by themselves. They get worse. So two bad buildings aren't going to get better by themselves either. So they're either going to be repaired, rehabilitated, it's the great one, put lipstick on a pig, right? Because one of our concerns is the aesthetics and the drag this is bringing to Pluckerman Village. But the other issue is demolition is your ultimate goal. And it should have been your ultimate goal when you purchased, when you got your approval in 2016, and even now. And what I find troubling is if you're going to hinge demolition to a subsequent approval for a use variance. Now, Committeeman Hickey and I sit on the land use board. We have a combined board. Not sure if you have that in Long Hill. We are not eligible for Board of Adjustment matters. But Board of Adjustment matters, this type of use change or use variance, it's a much harder hurdle than getting a little C variance on a site plan application. You may not get that. You may get it, you might not get it. I don't know. But the condition of the building should not hinge on some subsequent approval. And from my perspective, I don't want to spend municipal money demolishing a building or two buildings. But at the same time, and eventually, when your testimony is zoning and we get to deliberation, what we'll be discussing is, well, what are our options if we choose to proceed in any fashion? Now, it may be a long time before we get there because just as John said, we would have to, if we do decide to move forward, there'd be a resolution, there might be a bid process. So even if we take the extreme position of recommending demolition, you can beat us to the punch.
May I answer?
Please.
So a couple of things, Mayor. First of all, I apologize if I misspoke, but I certainly don't consider one contingent upon the other. In other words, the demolition that I plan on the building is not contingent upon getting the use approvals, use variance approvals. That's not what I meant to say at all. I'm waiting, which is different, for the time of getting approval. The reason I'm waiting is because then all that can be financed. I could go to the bank. I could say to the bank, I'll get the approvals. Let's proceed with that, which is the same strategy I had in the first go around when I had the office. But at that point, you had to get approvals from a bank for a loan on a commercial project like that. They have to see somebody committed to the project, some tenant, somebody coming in and saying, okay, you're going to be having an income related to that property. Otherwise, you're not going to get a nickel from them. So this is something that I was trying to refer to you at the beginning of my test or of my earlier statement. The idea that this is something we could work out without the need for a hearing regarding unsafe structures, because we could, negotiate.
Again, Mr. Vidiera, not to confuse matters, but we're not sitting on and determining Mr. Rogers' unsafe structure notices. That's before the uniform or the Construction Board of Appeals. You have to decide what action you're going to take to either contest those or not contest those. But, you have an appellate process to go to the Somerset County Construction Board of Appeals, and I can't instruct you on that, but that's how you contest Mr. Rogers' action. We're just going to decide this particular matter and deliberate under section 319 of our ordinances. So we're not deciding on safe structure tonight.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to do that, Mayor. What I'm asking is an opportunity to pursue this line of, a procedure, this, where I could proceed with the demolition in due course. Use variance aside, like I said, it's not contingent. I will proceed that way. I'm getting my estimates now. When I get a reasonable offer, I'm going to get at least 3 or 4 bids on it. Buildings will be taken down. And so there's no need for remediation to a building we're going to take down. Hopefully, call it a couple months. By the time I get the procedures, the bids in place and the applications for the demolition permits drawn. And so that's my intent that I could share with you now. Again, not contingent. I was hoping that it would be done in due course, meaning first the approvals, then the demolition. I could go to the bank. The bank says, okay, let's, now with these approvals, we could lend a construction loan to put up the buildings, et cetera.
And you had said you're back on your feet, that you were in a bad spot,
That's
maybe a
correct.
year or two ago, and you're back on your feet. The condition of the properties, to me, remains independent of either the 2016 approval or your efforts to come before the land use board for a board of adjustment application. So to me, if you're back on your feet, we're looking at a demo, not a development project or a redevelopment project.
I'm not
You
suggesting that.
already have the approval.
Mhm.
And Doug, I do apologize because
No,
I sort
not at
of, you were on a roll.
I'm not
So I go-
suggesting-
No, I just.
Just to
look,
clarify, Mayor, I'm not suggesting that you are deciding the land use issues. I'm not suggesting that at all. I understand what this is about. That we're here to discuss the conditions of the building and the resolution of that issue.
Look, I've heard you say it, and I'm a pretty commonsensical, practical kind of guy. Like, I don't see an advantage to putting taxpayer dollars into a structure that's going to come down. My problem, quite frankly, is why are they still standing? If the whole goal 6 years ago was to raise these structures, then rhetorically, isn't the solution here to demolish them? And then we don't have to bother you about an unsafe structure and you can speculate on the land as much as you'd like. But as they currently exist, this is unacceptable. This is not how we want our village. It's affecting the surrounding neighborhoods, the surrounding properties, and we need action. And if you're telling me the action is I'm going to take these things down, then give me a timeline. Give me something to hold you to. Give me something that I can go back and tell the neighborhood next door that said, look, my property value is being affected by these 2 lots. And we can say, don't worry about it because by X date, they won't be there. That's what I'm looking for. I want to make a practical sense solution here.
I already agreed to doing that. As I was saying earlier, I think it'll take at least a couple months to get the ball rolling, the permits. So I'm thinking before the end of the year, those buildings should be down.
I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I'm sure we'll go into, if you're telling me that by the end of the year, these buildings don't exist, that's an acceptable resolution to me. okay, sitting here was one of 5.
Mhm.
But that's what we're looking for here because you've owned it since 15, so you understand since 15, it's looked in some form or fashion like
Mhm.
this, and it's not getting better over time, as the mayor says. Can we
Absolutely.
all agree to that?
Yes.
That the condition that it was in 15, it's worse now than it was then,
It is
yes?
definitely deteriorated further. Sure.
Okay. Wouldn't it be the solution that we knock these things down and then you can play with 2 lots that are vacant and you can build what you need to build and build it residential to get the
Yes.
approval, build it commercial that you have the approval,
Right.
but we're not dealing with the past,
But
okay?
you-
That's the problem here.
I totally understand and agree, but you also have to maybe understand my point of view, which is, from, a commercial enterprise, getting it done in due course is normally what happens, which is you don't do the demolition until you get the approvals. And so had, my application back in March, been accepted as complete, we wouldn't be sitting here. It'd be done. But we had to go through an additional review with the engineers, with the architect, with the lawyers. And so that's done. It's submitted. I understand, Mayor, you don't think it's a complete application. It's not. It's not complete until the review committee deems it complete. But that hopefully will happen within days. I mean, the last time they only took, I think, a couple of weeks with it before they decided it was complete or incomplete. And so hopefully that will happen shortly. And I could get on the docket and we'll keep moving forward. And meanwhile, I'll get the bids in from the demolition. If you guys want to see them, I'm happy to share it with you. And hopefully the buildings will definitely be done by the end of the year, one way or the other.
Mayor, do you want me to just set the parameters for your legal discussion?
Sure. I just was going to ask Gina if she had any questions for Mr. Vitarera.
No, I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Hey, John. So that will conclude Mr. Vitarera's testimony. And so, John.
Mayor, you have, an ordinance, section 3-19. In particular, it talks about maintenance of exterior premises in the VN Village Zone. And it says the exterior premises shall be maintained so that its appearance shall reflect a level of maintenance in general keeping with the standards of the VN Village Neighborhood Zone and neighborhood, and such that the appearance thereof shall not promote or contribute to a blighting effect upon neighboring properties. Moreover, the exterior of the premises shall not contribute to the progressive deterioration and downgrading of neighboring properties. To this end, the following shall apply, and I'll read what I consider to be the pertinent ones for your consideration. Small b, where exposed to public view, the landscaping of the premises shall be maintained in keeping with the neighborhood and in an orderly state, with lawns mowed and bushes and shrubs trimmed and free from becoming overgrown, littered, and unsightly where such lawn, bushes, shrubs, and landscaping conditions would constitute or contribute to a blighting effect. C, exterior areas shall not be used for the storage of accumulated refuse and rubbish for more than a 2-week period, and such shall be stored in appropriate sanitary receptacles or other containers. And E, the paint or siding on a building shall be maintained in a condition that is not in a deteriorating state. If the committee were to find any of those conditions exist, the failure essentially to remediate shall constitute a nuisance, which may be abated by the township pursuant to its statutory authorization under NJSA 40:48-2.12. We have had the hearing as required by the ordinance. And after the public hearing and the presentation of evidence by the township zoning officer and the property owner, it may, if the evidence warrants it, adopt a resolution authorizing the remediation of the condition in accordance with section 319.7. And then, so that's what you're going to discuss.
Just once again, the sentence about adopting a resolution, could you just repeat that? So if
If the evidence warrants it, adopt a resolution authorizing the remediation of the conditions.
okay,
So again, we're not, you're going to have a discussion tonight. And if you reach any particular conclusions or wish any particular action, the next step would be to authorize the adoption of a resolution and to indicate at which meeting you want the resolution adopted.
okay. So
Mayor, may I be heard on the legal issue?
I'm sure that there's much there, but
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Come on.
Yeah, so there's another alternative, Mayor, and that is you don't need to decide anything. Right now, you have a proposal from me that would resolve the issue. And so I'm just asking.
We're aware of that.
Okay.
We're aware that taking no action is
They
certainly
are.
something.
They're aware they don't have
Yeah.
to move forward if
Okay.
they don't
Yes.
wish to.
Just trying to make that a point.
Yep. So, and I don't, you know what, usually the mayors deliberate last. You want me to go? All right. All right. So we drive by this property every day. Multiple times a day, sometimes. To me, certainly, the provisions B and E and, you know, I drove onto the property once and I drove through, I don't know, 3 feet of weeds where there was a driveway somewhere underneath it. I saw the liquor bottles around the property. Committee was with me. So I have my own observations, but, you know, Susanna and Ken, thank you so much for your presentations and the evidence you guys presented tonight. So I easily find that B and E of the ordinance are satisfied by the presentations, right? So the landscaping and the paint and siding. And I am averse to spending public dollars to fix the situation. And Mr. Vitarera's undertakings to move forward with the demolition, that's great. It's awesome. I don't think you're going to get it done. You've had 5 years and maybe 6 years if we count the 2015 purchase, but then you have the 2016 approval. And I think we need to have the resolution in place because I think we may be living with these buildings for longer than the end of the year. And I think we need to have that resolution in place. I mentioned it before, Mr. Vitarera, it could be a race, whether you affect the remedies before we do. And I certainly hope you beat us to it. Because I don't want to spend money on landscaping and put a lien on your property. I don't want to do painting. I don't want to put a fence. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to put a fence up that's going to mask the 2 eyesores that are there. But I think we need the resolution, that we need to move forward with the finding of a resolution so that if November comes, or if the demolition permit is not submitted next week, that we've got the ammunition with that resolution to move forward on the appropriate expenditures, and maybe it's demolition. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's doing something just to remediate and abate the situation, which from our standpoint, I don't care about the inside. As long as no one's getting in there, that's fine. But right now, the problems at that property are so deep that something needs to be done. And our concern is primarily safety and the impact this property is having on the surrounding properties themselves. So we need to be able to fix that situation. And I don't, you know, one of the things that we may ask Ken is, short of the safety and you'll pursue, right? Independently, you're going to pursue the construction code violations. Independently, if there are fire code issues, you're proceeding down that path no matter what, right? Okay. So that'll be addressed in its own course. I don't know what the steps are that address the landscaping, the paint and siding, the unsightliness, and the impact it has on the other properties. Demolition is one option, right? I don't know what's the next step below that?
Well, that's sort of where I was going with my questioning. If the owner, at the end of the day, needs these properties demolished, it doesn't make sense to me to put money into painting and fixing this and fixing that. Then I think you start the process of dual tracking, like you say. The owner can have his or her or its own track for remediating the issue. And behind it is the municipal track. And the municipal track is to say, okay, then whatever time frame that we expect, if it's not done within that time frame, then we have our remedy coming behind.
See, I wouldn't even put an if, right? Because I think our own process, talking to John, right? So we've got to do a resolution, whatever action we're going to take, whether we use DPW employees and charge a municipal rate and then put the lien based upon the municipal rate, or we go out to a bid process, that's going to take some time. I think that that process needs to move forward in a straight line, not a contingent or an if he doesn't, right? To have that built in, because
I agree.
I hope everything goes exactly as you say, but we have to be prepared that it doesn't. And I don't believe this committee is going to let the situation extend into 2022.
That's why I'm talking about a dual track situation, right? So we're hearing from the owner that the ownership's got its own pathway. Fine, but we're going to dual track it, meaning that's on one track, we're on another. And we start the process now so that if we get to the end of our track and we say, okay, we're going to bring the wrecking ball out to the property, we go out there, it's already done. It's gone because the ownership has already taken care of it. Great, super. They beat us to the punch. But again, in terms of option A, option B, option C, to me, there is one option. It's demolishing the two structures because.
But the issue is for us is demolition, and if we have to do it, right, that means we're coming out of pocket.
Right.
Now, let's just say, well, Mr. Vitter is right here, and he's made these undertakings to us. But if he doesn't do it, so let's say, and having gone through the pony farm situation, so we've got some experience with taking down old buildings, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000.
To me, the number will be dictated by the bids, and you'll have the market dictating what that costs. And whatever the cost is, we're going to lien the property and sell the lien. I don't see it. So we're floating money.
So just to be clear.
We're paying it. We're
Right.
floating it.
Okay. No, and right, no matter what, that property is going to be certainly worth more than that.
I see zero downside other than having to come up with the actual capital to float out during the period of time before we expend the money and then lien the property, sell the lien. I feel like we're covered. We will get our money back, and ultimately it'll be upon the ownership to clear the lien. To me, the issue would be financially to coming up with the money to do the demo. Okay, so that would be our bogey, would be our issue to hit. But I don't see a rationale for hiring a painting company to go out to scrape the sides of the building.
No, I'm not. Look,
only to have it come down.
I'm saying, is there something less than demolition that achieves our goal? Our immediate goal is deal with the unsightly condition and the safety issues. And frankly, the safety issues will be done elsewhere. And Ken, Susanna, from your experiences, or anything else that could be done to, I hate to say it, to dress up that property so it's not the blight in the excuse me, the village center that it is now. Not seeing anything.
Well, actually, how do we secure the assurance at the very least that we satisfy B, which is landscaping, get the lawn mowed, get the vegetation out? Because as the mayor mentioned, we walked that property right before those two resolutions were passed. The grass was up to our knees. Those buildings have been covered in vegetation for years. I know you said you talked to Joe. What's the name of your landscaper? Victor? Victor's taking your money and leaving. He's not cutting the grass. He's not removing the landscaping. Let's be very honest. And you indicated that it was done prior to August 7th when you noticed the grass was mile high. It's been that way for years. I was getting calls last year from the residents. And that's why Joe reached out to you, because we got complaints. And nothing was ever done. I think maybe one time Victor showed up and cut the wall. So the conditions have been eyesore, it's been a safety and health hazard. It's been a traffic nuisance for years. You know it, we know it, the residents have told us. So I want an assurance that even if we go down this demo path, that property, at least the lawn's gonna be cut, bushes are gonna be trimmed, because it looks like hell right now. And it has been that way for years. And I know you've gone through all these things where you've got the plan A and plan B, and this didn't work out, whatever, but you still had the obligation to maintain it, and you didn't. And you're a former mayor. You know what that does to a property value, the surrounding area. And you took no action. Did you ever walk the property, by the way?
Mhm.
Did you, so you saw what it looked like?
Yes, I have.
You saw the weeds and the grass and vegetation, the bushes, and everything overgrown. But you elected to take no action.
That's not correct.
Paid Victor, but
Well,
my eyes tell me Victor didn't show
Yeah.
up.
And-
Mr. Hickey, we're deliberating. We're not
Sorry,
asking
sorry.
Mr.
All right,
Vidier
Fair
questions.
enough, fair enough. It's my frustration, and it's frustration of this committee, it's frustration of the residents, frankly, who contacted us for years about the property. So I think we just need assurance that we can, in the interim, make sure that at least something's being maintained. Not paying the building, at least the landscaping, the lawns and the vegetation.
Like I said, I'll get it done before the end of the year, demolish the buildings.
Can we put that right?
Well, you can put it in writing, but once again, that's
Well,
just,
like, to Doug's point, we're gonna dual track it because we don't have any insurance.
Gina. There she is.
Mayor, just to reiterate what Doug and Colin said, we have to keep tabs on, there's a promise to demolish the buildings doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's going to take place. So just to kind of follow up with the owner and kind of keep track of the progress. That's all.
Thank you, Gina. So John, what are options on a decision tonight?
Ms. Reporter, what is the turnaround time for getting me a transcript?
The regular delivery is 2 weeks. So what are we at, the 20th today? So by the end of the month? That's 10 days, 10 business days?
We're probably looking for all intents and purposes in not adopting a resolution if the committee wants to on October 4th, but on October 18th.
But what do we need to do tonight? Do we
You
need-
have to decide what you want to do with this property,
Okay, so tonight is,
if anything.
right, okay, so
You could.
I think the sentiment
you could
is-
carry the hearing if you wanted. You could say, we're going to carry this to October 18th. We're going to see if Mr. Vidier has mown the lawn, removed all the unsightly shrubs, if he has submitted a demolition permit, if he has moved forward with obtaining a demolition contractor. So, I mean, that's an option, and have him come back on the 18th and say, this is what I've done. You could move forward with a resolution on the 18th. You really have a
So the-
broad range of
So the
solutions.
resolution, so tonight, if we say, we're going to take action, we're going to take action in the form of a subsequent resolution. But I guess my question is it A, B, or C? A being, yeah, we'll send DPW out there with a lawnmower, and they'll hack some bushes down. C being demo, and B being something in between. Do we have to be that specific?
Yes, you need to be specific.
So, and that's in a vote tonight.
Yes, because if you're going to do a resolution, you need to decide upon the you have to authorize the remediation of the condition, and you have to decide what you want to do.
Now,
Because
can we give, in that, can we say that the resolution will run the gamut from demolition and or this, or and or that, or and or
No, I
something
think you
else?
have to be specific.
Okay, so Doug, you've said from a commonsensical approach that demolition is the only option, because why waste his money? Because eventually it's all his money or the property owner's money.
Or may I jump in? Just, I don't.
Sure.
Jump. You might say, hey, we're going to authorize this, but we're not, I don't know what you're going to do. You say we're going to authorize demolition, but we're not going to go out for bids until such and such date.
I think the natural process
Which
itself
would,
would be-
well, you give him a little more time to win the race. You really can do whatever you want within the context of the ordinance. You can be creative in order to permit him to remediate before you have to do so.
We're going to give you some lead time. But we're going to have the ultimate, which is you don't do it, then we're spending the effort. And if
May
it
I
does-
respond?
And it just, no, not yet. And if it does create, right, that there's funds that are spent that result in a lien, that results in additional expenditures by you ultimately, that's on you, because we're going to give you the lead time to beat us to that process. But you have to do there. You have to get there.
Look, I think the demo structure, right? The DPW and or landscapers is non-structural. Okay, so I think, yes, I don't think there's any question that the condition of the property requires both. So my take would be to say, similar to what we're talking about here, yes, I would authorize both remedial action with respect to the vegetation and the structures. And I would set that on a time frame going out. You know, the owner is here to hear where we're going with this. I would encourage you, I would like it if we sent our guys out there and it was done. That would be my preference. Okay, I don't want to be in your proverbial wallet here. I don't. The condition of property is leaving us no choice. So my take would be, yes, let's set both wheels in motion, set it down the track. And if we've got to go through resolutions, we'll go through resolutions. In the meantime, the ownership has the ability to get out in front of us.
So that's a recommendation for proceeding with landscaping and or demolition.
And
And
And.
Gina, are you demolition and landscaping?
Yes, Mayor, demolition and landscaping.
And to be clear, I'm saying demo, and I realize that's like the end of the spectrum, but that's what I'm hearing, that's what ownership
Right, it's not
ultimately wants
it's
here.
not
I'm not
inconsistent
talking about
with,
someone else
it's
here
not
who's got a
inconsistent
problem. I'm
with
gonna walk in
the-
and advocate demoing their structure. Demo, because demo is what is required. That's why I'm going.
And by the way, if we do the resolution on October 18th, which seems to be the target date, given the transcript, that gives the property owner plenty of time to go out there and mow the lawns, cut down the shrubs, get rid of all that, clean up bottles, et cetera, start the process to get demo permits. We're back here on October 18th. If all that's done, then you don't have to send DPW or
Right,
landscaper
correct,
out
right.
there to do
And
it, because
that's right.
you say, hey, it's done.
Right.
Now we're just looking at.
well, we're not doing testimony. Have you already do you still have a utility connect, or are you on it already
No.
done a disconnect?
Disconnected.
It is disconnected.
Yeah.
So you don't need to go back to PSE&G or JCP&L for any disconnects.
That's correct.
So that's usually, in my experience, one of the longer lead times. The town permit
May I
is in a couple
speak,
days. Do
Mayor? May I speak?
you really want to? Because
I just want
you-
to say very, very quickly, I like Mr. Velarde's idea of carrying to October 18th, where I could come back and report to you, here's the steps I've taken.
Well, we wouldn't
Okay.
carry,
Okay.
we're gonna have a resolution. So we're not.
So
we're
I'm
carrying
not,
it. We're
so
gonna-
he
we're
may
gonna
throw
have a
that out there.
resolution that's
I'm not
corrected.
going to support carrying this
Right.
hearing. we're going to make a decision tonight.
Right, we're not
to-
carrying.
To authorize action.
Right, and then there'll be a resolution on the 18th.
Would then authorize.
Right.
Expenditures.
You can handle
Look.
it, whatever, it's your decision to handle it.
We're,
whatever way
we're
you want.
moving forward.
My point
What we're
is-
saying is we're giving you some time between when we adopt the resolution and when I get the transcript and
there-
prepare the resolution. We're giving you some time to go clean the property
Yeah.
up. But we're still gonna adopt a resolution from what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Yes.
What I'm saying, Your Honor, is, Mayor, that you give me an opportunity to do it now that everything's clear, and I will do it. I'll come back on October 18th, and you'll see that to the extent humanly possible, I'm going to have, the easy stuff done, of course, and the bidding done, and hopefully the applications for the.
Don't do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Don't mention your applications for the use variance.
No, no,
Because we're only
I'm not
here.
saying that. I'm
Okay.
saying for the demolition. That's what I'm saying.
Well, your application for the demolition should be in hopefully very soon, unless there's details that you need from a contractor.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's it. You have to pick a contractor. It's part of the application. So once that's done, and that should be done before October 18th, that gives me a month. It should be adequate time to do that. But in any event, I'll be back and I could report to you on what the progress is, and you'll see that the buildings have improved. Now, there's two issues. One is the remediation that needs to be done to meet the code that was violations that were enumerated in the notices of unsafe structure. But that's different than the idea of demolition.
What we are talking about for our purposes is the ordinance provision.
Right.
You're going to have to deal with unsafe
So
structure
you talk with
anyway.
Mr. Rogers on that.
That-
That
that's-
doesn't concern
You're going to
us.
talk to them,
Right.
right?
Well, my point is, Your Honor, that the notice of unsafe structure it specifically does not provide for demolition. And so the idea is that there's a remediation, something less than demolition. which is-
Then we'll spend money and then it'll be an additive expense to you because you're going to demolish it anyway.
well,
But
my
that's,
point.
but
I'm
that's
gonna-
what that's one of the things that you've proffered.
If, that's exactly right. There's two things, though. There's one that's the remediation that's necessary to deal with the immediate issues. That does not involve demolition. And then the promise that I've made to demolish because it's to my benefit. Okay, so the township could resolve the issue without the need for demolition.
Then
It's
the
not a
resolution would be going in and honestly, what are we going to do? We're going to put up vinyl siding on the property? Right? We're, right?
You could
so
decide
how
what you
else
wanna
do
but
how else do we abate the eyesore?
That's the
Right?
problem.
That
with
if you don't want us, and we're trying to some extent, accommodate you
Mhm.
from putting money into an improvement that you're going to demolish, and maybe if you left to your own timeline, I don't know when that would be.
Before the end of the year. I've already made it clear. It'll be done before the end of the year, the demolish part. Okay. Again, that's a separate.
If that happens, then that would be
It's
great.
gonna happen.
But we are going to have our own track,
Right.
because if it doesn't happen,
I understand. My point is, there's the demolish part is my part. Okay, that's my promise to you to do, because it's going to benefit me to do it. The remediation part is separate and apart from that because you could remediate those properties without demolishing. I mean, if I really wanted to rent them, I could bring it up to code, with some expenditure and rent them theoretically. Of course, I think it's ridiculous to do it that way. My point entirely is those buildings should be taken down and a new one put up. And hopefully the one that I'm submitting, So those are two separate issues. The idea that I said, there's a lot of talk here about, we're going to require demolishing. Like, wait a second, that's not part of the remediation that's necessary at this point in time to solve the problem that you have before you.
understood.
All right, let's deliberate and you give me some direction on what you want to do in terms of a resolution for the 18th.
Are we legally permitted to recommend demolition?
Yes,
Okay. Because
you could take a
I've heard
lesser
now
step.
from ownership, the first threshold statement was, why are we putting any money into this? I'm just gonna take them down. And I don't want to create a situation where we then say, okay, let's go, scrape the paint, figure this out, figure that out, and then we incur X dollars and lien the property for X dollars. And then the ownership says, that's improper. I told them I was going to take it down, and I don't like the lien.
Well, look, from a
Versus hearing from ownership that I'm going to take the structure down. All the plans I've ever had for this property is take the structure down. And then we say, fine, then the remedial action for the eyesore is to take out the eyesore, demolish the structures. Okay. Now I'm hearing from ownership that that's now separate and that we're not permitted to do that. So I'm feeling cat and mouse a little bit here, but I want to know from legal, can we say that at the end of the day, the fix to the eyesore is to remove the structures, demolish them?
Yes, and I think from a practical standpoint, and he's indicated, the property owner indicated a couple months, and he said by the end of the year. We've got 3 months, well, a little more than 3 months to the end of the year. We're going to adopt a resolution October 18th. Maybe you're going to say start the process to get bids for a demolition person. Well, purchasing agent's going to have to draw up bid specs. They're going to have to advertise. They're going to have to put it out there. We're going to have to review them. We're going to have to award a bid. We're really looking, even if we wanted to do that, probably from a practical standpoint, towards the end of the year. So when the mayor suggests that it's a race, it's not as if he's going to get the time he needs if we take him for his word to demolish it before we finally reach the point where we award a bid and say, here's the start date. You might say, hey, we're going to award a bid and the start date for demolition is January 3rd. Right? And he's told us he'll do it by the end of the year. So if he doesn't on January 3rd.
Okay. So by going down the road of ultimately suggesting that demolition be the remedial fix for the structure, we're in line with the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm unchanged.
You're unchanged.
I'm unchanged.
And then again, you could structure the demolition process so it doesn't, he's going to tell you he's going to be in communication with you if you take him by his word. There should be a demolition permit submitted shortly. By the 18th, maybe the property owner will have news of who he's been talking with about bids. We're moving forward. As the mayor said,
So
he'll have time to do what he wants to do.
okay, so where I land on this to be counted, I'm in support of a resolution that talks about sending DPW out there to effectuate the vegetation fix up and the shrubs, whatever, plus a track of demolishing the actual structures.
Now, let me,
And that
about the
should be-
shrubs, you want the lawn cut, right?
Right.
Want the shrubs trimmed or do you want the shrubs removed?
See, right now the shrubs,
What do you,
to
right?
some extent, the shrubs actually hide the rest of the eyesore. You remove those shrubs.
I agree.
Be
Trim,
specific.
except for the dead tree.
There's a dead
which
tree in the back of
apparently
one.
Victor cut and manicured a dead tree. Just to let you know. Unless you did that or someone did that. Someone did that on your behalf. There's a dead tree in the front and they
Yeah.
actually trimmed the dead tree.
Tidy up the property aesthetically from a vegetation perspective, and then get the property ready for a demo on the structures. That's where I land.
And authorize the start of the bidding process.
Correct. That's where I live.
Committeeman Hickey?
So my question is, are we doing that DPW vegetation work or is it on you?
Well, look, you're adopting the resolution on October 18th. He could go out there tomorrow and do all that work.
Okay. So if he doesn't do that work, we can go do that work.
It's
And we can
the
continue.
20th. He has almost a month to go out there
All right,
and make it look presentable. And that's a good faith effort.
fair enough.
And pick up bottles and rubbish and shut the window, whatever. Work with Mr. Rogers, talk with him about making the building safe.
And do we need an outer marker in terms of when we actually start our process? Meaning that you told us end of the year, so no earlier than Jan 1, we will then have our process initiated. Do we need that?
If you want to do that, you can.
My concern is, what's the forcing function? Because I've heard a lot from the owner about, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, but, you know, the proof is in the pudding. And we've heard a lot of promises before, and I haven't seen it.
Well, it's 3 months to the end of the year and 10 days. So you decide whether you want to have in the resolution the leeway where the demolition, you're going to take bids, but the specs would say the demolition will start on the following date. That's up to you to
Or
decide.
no earlier than.
Or no earlier than such and such.
What do you guys recommend?
I recommend the resolution for the 18th, and let's let the process play out. I don't think we need to commit ourselves to dates beyond the 18th at this point.
Okay.
Committeewoman Fernandez.
I have no further questions, no further comment about this. I just think, same thing, resolution for the 18th.
All right, I'll get a transcript. It's not unlike, I'm not going to say it's going to be detailed as a planning board resolution, but you know how planning board resolutions are memorialized. This certainly will be a more detailed resolution than what you're normally used to.
Okay.
And Ms. Reporter, you'll give me a call tomorrow, talk with Ms. Riley, and we'll coordinate.
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you, and thank you for attending tonight.
Okay.
You're welcome.
We're done. Thank you.
Okay, so
The
with
hearings
that,
can
the
close.
public hearing is over. Thank you, Mr. Vitarera, for showing up tonight and for capably representing yourself.
Thank you.
And thank you, Susanna and Ken, for showing up as well.
All right, now we have the rest of the meeting.
Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
And we'll get the exhibits. Susanna, why don't you collect, and you and Mr. Rogers collect the original exhibits so we can say keep those.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, it's okay. Thank you. Yeah, I see it. Thank you. That's all right. We'll get it. Thank you.
Permits and raffles. We have two permits, one raffle. First is special use permit by James W. Chesson for temporary residence in an accessory apartment during construction of a new home located at 2360 Large Cross Road, Bedminster. Second is a social affair permit amended. This is for the Hemophilia Association of New Jersey at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club from April 3, 2020 to November 19, 2021, 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Robin, is that just an extension of a social affair
It
permit?
is. It's just to make the township committee aware that the event has been moved. It
Okay.
was amended.
Okay. And the third is non-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit the Willow School on October 23, 2021, 4 p.m., 1150 Pottersville Road, Bedminster. Any questions or comments regarding those two permits and one raffle? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve?
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, and you're going to move awful fast. Mr. Stevenson.
thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to follow up with everybody about from last meeting, remember we had a bunch of folks from fucking park
Yep.
in here complaining about various conditions. I did go out there the following day. I did meet up with Mr. Mahoney. I walked the property. And just by pure serendipity, at the time that I ran into Mr. Mahoney, the gentleman that they were describing as the roofer was actually in his apartment working out the issues of what was going on up on the roof. So reminded him again, if he has any leaking issues, to make video recordings with his phone so that he can isolate exactly where and how it's happening. To my knowledge, I haven't heard of any further leaks
And
Within the
so
last
it's
2 weeks, so-
interesting because there was a very significant downpour.
That's right.
That came on and it was like raining really hard for about a good, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. But you didn't hear of any complaints. Robin, did you hear anything further from the folks at Pluckman Park?
No, I have not.
Okay.
So I took my notes, my observations, and I wrote a fairly detailed email to Abe.
The property manager.
Property manager. And as has been my experience with him, very responsive, responded to me the same day and indicated that the various items would be addressed or had been addressed or in the process of being addressed. So again, just encourage the folks that if there's stuff going on inside the units to let us know, because obviously that's not stuff we can see. There was some stuff that was visible. I mean, obviously we've had a lot of rain, so I don't know exactly when the person was there to cut the grass, but it looked like there was some weed whacking that needed to be done. The grass up against the structures was way too high. But again, I will continue to fly through there, periodically do drop-ins to make sure that I quite frankly, maybe the trash had been removed the day before. I didn't see any of the conditions that were described with respect to the trash. But I will, make it a point to be on top of that. But
Right. Also, Susanna had gone out there from a zoning officer's perspective. And granted, Winston, so she's looking at exterior issues. And she didn't see anything that was violative at that point. Additionally, Robin reached out to Legal Aid of Northwest New Jersey out of Somerville. And I believe was forwarding that same information to the group. So once we haven't heard from them, so I don't know if they're proceeding or not proceeding. We certainly had asked them to keep us informed.
yeah, I've got the email address
Okay.
for a couple of the folks that attended, so I'll reach out for them just to see whether they got the news that Legal Aid was sort of waiting for them and, just make sure that everything is at least checked for now, but on it, we'll continue to stay on it.
Okay.
We'll see where it goes.
Okay. Thank you.
Historic Preservation had a meeting this past week. It went well, one applicant and it's fairly smooth, so nothing really to report. And, DPW just continuing to, the trials and tribulations of trying to recover from the storms and obviously personnel. So we'll still work on that, but that's really all I've got.
Okay. Thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
I can be quick, Mayor, Board of Health, we had no meeting because we had pending applications. Library Board, as you know, was canceled due to lack of quorum. We have a Board of Ed meeting this Thursday, hopefully that won't be canceled. And I think IT will be handled under the administrator's report, so that's all I have.
Great. Committeewoman Hernandez.
Hi, Mayor. I have a rec committee meeting tomorrow, so I'll have an update for us next week and some HR updates, but I'm sure Robin will handle that in the administrator's report.
Okay.
And that's all. Thanks.
So what I just want to touch upon is, so we had the joint presentation that you all were at with the Land Use Board. And this was the presentation of the planning study that was done for the AT&T Bedminster campus. I've been involved in this process for a very long time, going back to working with Mayor Parker on some of these initial overtures, and it's certainly evolved over time. But it was, I thought, a very good presentation by the planning consultants. So thank you to Pete and Kate, and also obviously to Walt Lane from Somerset County Planning. But that was not the end of it. So there's going to be a formal report that the planning consultants will provide to us, give an opportunity for some feedback, and then that report will be finalized. However, the PowerPoint presentation itself that was made that night, and the Zoom video, do we know, is that up yet?
Zoom video was up
Okay.
right the day after the meeting.
Okay, so the Zoom video is up, and the PowerPoint presentation, if anyone hasn't seen them, seen either of them actually, I recommend that you do so because, that is our biggest rateable in town, biggest employment center in town. And it's, one of the more critical properties we have. So, it's interesting, even today, through one of the real estate journals that, we lawyers get, this company is moving to the Connell complex in Berkeley Heights, bringing 3,000 jobs. It's financial, but the jobs that they're bringing are high tech. So we know that right now, what are the job sectors that we're seeing in New Jersey and Somerset County? What are we already geared up for? It's high tech and life sciences. And we're not looking to recreate the wheel here, but we have certain recognition that, you know what, is AT&T going to stay? Maybe, but I doubt it. So we have to be prepared. And if we don't plan, we are derelict in our obligations to the Bedminster residents. That's all I have for subcommittee report. Ms. Ray, administrators report.
Okay, I'm going to be super quick. For HR, we conducted interviews last week. Committeewoman Fernandez was involved in the interviews for DPW truck driver, labor, and also administrative assistant. And there are 2 resolutions on the agenda for consideration later on this evening. With regard to that, Hurricane Ida, we've begun our preliminary damage assessment. Mayor, you had mentioned earlier, we have a subject matter expert on hand, so we're moving forward. I'm happy to report that DPW is having their meeting tomorrow morning.
Oh, great. Good.
Okay. We have a new Red Cross contact for our particular area. I've been in touch with them and put them in touch with 2 residents that had sustained significant damage. And that information has also been forwarded to our OEM coordinator.
Great.
And community garden meeting is coming up on Wednesday, September 29th. I know Renee's not here, so I just thought I'd report on her behalf. We already have 11 people that have responded that they will be attending. And there is also a PSC&G meeting that's coming up. I know Committeeman Stevenson has championed this effort. That's going to be held on Thursday of this week on the 23rd.
Oh, it's the 23rd?
Correct.
Now, so Doug, do you want to touch upon that real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so we talked about this before. So this is going way back when. This is when Judy was still here, and actually this was pre-COVID. I started having discussions with PSE&G. Hey, where else can we expand the service? And Ski Hill was really sort of my initial target right there. And then certainly as the discussion evolved, capturing Old Dutch, Deer Haven, Old Stonehouse, Old Dutch Place, all of which have little stubs of gas service coming down, but it hasn't been extended throughout the the neighborhood. So Doug took it upon himself to reach out and did a flyer. He went out to all those neighbors and
Yep.
Where are you now?
Thank you, Robin, for the help with the flyer, with the graphics. So we did a flyer. Susan and I distributed it to Ski Hill, Berkshire, the streets you had mentioned down Old Stonehouse, Old Dutch. And I don't know whether it's eligible for the other side, because I always understood it to be the east side of 206. But basically summoning everybody to a public meeting this Thursday, where we're going to have a PSE&G rep there to explain the process and to hopefully answer very, sort of 30,000 foot questions like, how much of a commitment is it? If I say I'm interested and I sign on the dotted line, am I committed to making the payment? And I believe the answer to that's going to be no. But what we want to get is interest in mass, because if we can have multiple folks committing BTUs to the overall, equation, it's going to factor into how much is it going to cost how much is PSE&G going to charge the residents to bring the lines down the roads. Everyone is always going to be responsible for the cost to tap in. My understanding is, though, the cost to bring that line through to tap into could be eliminated potentially with a sufficient number of BTU commitments. So that's why it's better than saying to one family on Ski Hill and one family on Old Stonehouse, hey, go call PSE&G and work it out yourself. there's no economy of scale here. You can't get any value for your dollar. So the idea here is get neighborhoods together to have people moving in mass and committing in mass to drive the cost down. So the hookups are really only what
No,
folks are looking to pay
it's
for.
great. I'll tell you, I spoke to a number of folks on Deer Haven and Old Stonehouse, and they are very excited. One of the residents told me that about 2 years ago, he tried, I guess it was pre-COVID, he tried to get his neighborhoods going, and he had one brief discussion with PSE&G, and they filled out the forms, but people were a little leery of committing to BTUs, and it sort of fizzled out.
And that's the reason for that. I'll say, I looked at the form, I was directed to the form that you need to fill out, and it kind of looks like it's, you're committing yourself, tell us how much do you want to, do you have a pool? Do you have your electric water heater? Do you want, the various different things, your furnace? What are you committing to sign up with us? And then you don't really have a sense from the form itself that it's sort of a preliminary stage. I
Right.
think you send it in, next thing you know, they're coming down and they're laying pipe to your house, and then you're
Right.
getting a bill in the mail. Like, that's not what people want, I'm sure, at this point. They want to figure out what's the deal, what's the story here. That's the point of this first meeting, is to just lay out the process.
What's also interesting is that there were a number of folks who were looking at doing improvements, add-ons to their homes, putting in pools. So I think they need that form that you're orchestrating to be able to ask those questions of the PSE&G reps. Hey, I don't have a pool, but I'm making plans to put one in the next 2 years. And if you're looking at a 10-year horizon, well, let's count that in, PSE&G. So don't discount things that we're going to be working on, and just.
And look, the anecdotal stories is that the gas service will enhance the value of your property if you're on oil service. So there's an inherent advantage to that. The issue is going to be the upfront cost to the folks for tapping in. It's not going to be totally cheap. And then, is there added layer on top of that of running the actual line? And that's what we're looking to reduce.
So what we heard from some folks who had done this, I suppose it 2 years ago, or maybe, when did they do Tuttle and Riverwood?
It was 2 years
It
ago.
was 2 years ago?
Yeah,
So 2 years ago, when
2 summers ago, exactly.
Ken Ryan was here. Remember, he was here about the road and the water company destroying the road and the condition of the road itself. But then he stayed for this PSE&G conversation. Remember, he said they brought the line all the way to the house. So they brought the line all the way up to the house, and then it was just at that point tapping in on the driveway and the expense to whether you would
Converting, right? Yeah.
But that'll be the owner's expenses. So that's great.
Hopefully we can
Keep
get
going
some
with it.
traction. Yeah.
And if you need any little digs in at PSE&G, let us know. Okay.
I have 2 more items.
you have 2 more items, okay.
Administrator's report, if you don't mind, very quickly. Last week, Committeeman Hickey and I had our monthly IT touch base with the IT manager. We went over a number of items. I won't go into all the detail, but one of the main items was the punch list of outstanding items for both here at Town Hall with regard to access points and the police station, finalizing the renovations over there. We have a plan, we're moving forward. Also, the IT manager is going to be reaching out to all the department heads to assess software and hardware needs for 2022, which will be a good planning tool for us for budgeting purposes, something that we really need to do instead of doing these projects, these little things mid-year. So just kind of really get it all together. And also we'll be putting together an IT strategic plan, something that's more short-term, not like a 5-year, but a 3-year, because technology changes so often. But that would help us to drive the bus long-term for capital projects for IT. And lastly, did I miss anything on that?
No, you got it.
Okay, good. Lastly, I just wanted to report out that the county clerk was really timely and sent out the ballots on Friday. So the ballot boxes that are in front of our building was supposed to be open Wednesday. It's now opened as of this afternoon. So
Is it going to be similar that it's going to be and collected at the end of the day?
they're coming, they come.
So
every-
Somerset County is coming every
Somerset
day.
County comes every day. Their retrieval team will come every morning. We're B for Bedminster. They start with us first. And they go around Somerset County and replace out these bins that are inside so that it's secure. They
So-
photograph it and Interesting.
Is it open overnight or is it opened in the morning and then collected in
it's
the
open all
evening?
night.
Okay.
So once we opened it this morning and it was documented through photographs, it remains open until 8 o'clock on election night when I have to
Okay.
close it. And I have to have witnesses from either party, Democrat and Republican, to watch me close the ballot.
Okay.
Okay. And in addition, we put together a flyer that we had sent out to residents. It was on Facebook. It's on our website, and we're promoting it here with regard to the polling locations and how people can vote. Just so everybody, it's another new process where we have early voting this year, in-person early voting for 10 days prior to the election. And there's 6 key locations throughout Somerset County.
And
We
the
are not
closest
one of
one
them.
is
Closest is
Bridgewater.
Bridgewater, correct.
And that's a Bridgewater Municipal Complex?
Correct, and we have all that information on the flyer that we sent out to everybody.
And the other 5, my understanding, are in the southern part of the county.
Actually, I can tell you, I'll list them very quickly. It is Hillsborough, Bridgewater, Montgomery, Warren, Franklin, and North Plainfield.
All
And that
right.
concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any ordinances scheduled for public hearing. We do have one ordinance to introduce. That's ordinance number 2021-019. This ordinance would appropriate $160,000 for the repaving and reconstruction of Black River Road. The ordinance appropriates $160,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund for the repaving and reconstruction of Black River Road, sections 1 and 2. The public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for October 5, 2021 at 7 PM in these chambers. Robin, so I believe we did an ordinance and we approved it, authorizing some funds for engineering.
Correct.
And what is in this $160,000 that's in this ordinance?
So this is the actual paving. This is our portion of the paving project so that we can go ahead and
Okay.
get started.
So this is, and
Materials.
that's the materials, that's our participation, and then I forget, it was,
Correct.
I forget what the grant was, but it was.
So it was in
significant.
2 parts, and I don't want to get this wrong, but it was roughly $550 in total. It was the grant.
550,000.
550,000,
Right,
yes.
Right.
I'm going to ask an ignorant question. What is Monday, October 4th? Is that a holiday this year? Because we're having a hearing on a Tuesday.
I'm sorry, I'm, the date must be incorrect. My apologies. Let me see.
I mean, I might, the 5th is a Tuesday, right?
Yes, the 5th is a Tuesday. It should be a Monday,
No,
right?
well,
So October 1st,
good to
Fourth,
catch it there.
fourth.
right, I'm just trying to go down what the days are. It should be October 4th. Thank you for that. Make sure that that's correct in my notice that goes out tomorrow to the newspapers. Thank you.
Monday is October 4th.
Correct.
See, I am paying attention.
Thank you, John.
Not a bad question.
I should know that because my daughter's wedding is October 2nd. so
Oh, your daughter's getting
I should
married?
have that
Your daughter's getting married?
tattooed in my brain.
Really? Emily?
Well, I've just been saying,
Emily's too young to get married. Come on.
we've been saying October 18th all evening, so if I subtract 14th, it just was 4.
I got
so
you.
Otherwise, I may not have picked it up.
Okay, so may we have a motion to introduce ordinance 2021-019, for which the public hearing will be scheduled for October 4.
So moved.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. Public hearing, we have no public hearing other than of ordinances. We have no public hearing for ordinances. Consent agenda. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything off? Thank you very much. Seeing we don't have any such motions. May we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolutions, we don't have a resolution now, but we will have a resolution to consider after executive session. Excuse me, and may we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Does anyone have new business to raise tonight? Thank you. Okay, we'll move to old business. COVID, cover the COVID numbers, DOT. I did see some, what I thought was new signs up there. Unless those were being piecemealed in.
Yeah.
So I did see that
Yeah,
wacky.
yeah.
Yeah. So those,
Yep.
some of the additional signs are up at the River Road. Utilities, we've already covered PSE&G. NJAW water line.
You want me to start with that first or last? You want good news or bad news? Actually, let me start with JCP&L.
Okay, you cover it.
I'll do it. So JCP&L, Carol Bianchi is leaving us and taking on a new role with the JCP&L. She will now be in charge of emergency preparedness for the entire company. So we thank her for all her good work and advocacy on our behalf. We will be getting a new liaison and we will continue the progress we started with Carol.
The new liaison is Yolanda Matiars, who I believe was she on committee in Warren?
Who's this again? I was just reading a note.
Yolanda Matiars?
She still is on committee.
Oh, she's still on committee?
I think she's
Okay.
running this year again.
Okay, well,
She's
she's going to be our new JCP&L liaison.
Taking Miss Bianchi's place?
Yes.
yes, she's getting promoted.
Wow.
Going to take over emergency preparedness for the company as part of her rotational assignments there. So sorry to lose her. She did a great job.
I know.
Yes, she did.
Miss Maziar was a lawyer and was running her own firm. so.
Yeah.
Altice, Committeewoman Reski and I are continuing to facilitate meetings between the Hills Homeowners Associations and Altice regarding the proposed fiber to the home build out. Our next meeting is with the associations that are part of the Hills Village Master Association. That is scheduled for Monday, the 27th.
So Monday, the 27th, you guys are meeting with Hills Village Master.
Correct,
And are you going to have all the reps from the association?
correct,
Okay.
exactly.
Now, a fair amount of those are already on FiOS, but it'd be interesting to see,
Some are on five, some are not.
some are not, some don't have any, so I imagine they'll be anxious to bring in fiber, and also be interesting to see if the ones who are connected to FiOS want
Want an
the
alternative.
option of having optimum.
Yep,
Fiber.
yep. So we'll make sure we get their questions answered. I know they all have some concerns, and then they can make an informed decision individually in terms of whether or not they want to proceed. So it's up to them. So we will continue to push on that work. And finally, I say the best for last, New Jersey American Water. Construction on Deerhaven Road and Old Dutch started last Wednesday. As I reported last time, we had a pre-construction meeting and a plan was agreed upon by New Jersey American Water, their contractors, our DPW, and our police. Whether the plan is on, or something if you actually stick to it. On day one of construction, New Jersey American Water's contractor decides to throw the plan out the window and literally do the opposite of what was agreed to, including starting at the other end of the road.
So first off, thank you to Committeewoman Fernandez, who immediately notified us through the neighborhood chat.
She told us that her commute out of her driveway was 10 minutes long. So thank you, Gina. We immediately got out there with DPW and our Bedminster PD, who responded to our request to manage the chaos and that the contractor had created. And Mayor, thank you, by the way. You got wind of this. You were immediately on scene that morning. I think your experience directing traffic at the farmer's market every Saturday came in handy that day.
It was interesting. It was interesting when the New Jersey American Water outside engineer says, oh, this wasn't supposed to happen.
Nope. Like I said.
And then the contractor who was responsible for implementing work, well, I wasn't at the pre-con meeting.
My boss didn't tell me. Craziness.
So, and then Colin, thank you, because you got it. I was there about 9:30, 9 o'clock, you were out there at noon and then you were out there again at 3:30.
Yeah. We just got to.
Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate, thank you, Colin and Mayor, because the following day, there was another police on site. They were, at the beginning and the end of where the actual construction was taking place and at the end of the road. So that made more sense and it was a lot safer, I think, the following day. So immediately, things were improved. And I think there's just a lack of communication, but that's also getting better. So thank you for all your help with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. As Gina mentioned, we received a lot of complaints from residents regarding lack of access to their driveways, property damage, and just a general failure by New Jersey American Water to communicate status, like telling people, hey, the next day you got to park your cars away from your driveway because, we're going to be blocked. We have been in daily contact with their lead construction manager to both express our displeasure and ensure they're taking corrective measures to address the situation. We received their apologies and their commitment to address the problems. As Gina said, conditions appear to be improving.
Well, conditions seem to be improving on that one issue, but then today we got wind that there were more issues.
Right, which we've been addressing. So, again, they apologize profusely, as Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. So.
Well, I think that was a lesson that also applies to our earlier discussion tonight.
Yes, exactly right, Mayor. Thank you. I actually reached out to our DPW today to say, look, run up there, maintain a presence up there, keep tabs on things. Our PD has been doing the same. And guess what? Our residents have also been our eyes and ears. They're reaching out to us via Facebook, via email, letting us know what conditions are. We appreciate that. We need them to keep us posted. I think we all understand that construction brings with it some level of inconvenience and disruption, but we should not have to tolerate sloppiness on behalf of the contractor or failure to execute against an agreed upon plan. So we're trying to remedy the situation. We continue to do that.
And so one of the interesting things is, okay, well, what could we do, right? Contractor threw away the pre-construction plan and is causing disruption in the neighborhood. Well, one of the things we can do, and this is through the police department, is essentially put a stop work order on. In other words, stop the project. And that was communicated both to the contractor, to the outside engineer, and to the NJAW rep himself. Because if there's a stop order that's placed on because the contractor is doing something, well, that ultimate delay in the project and those expenses get borne by the contractor. So that message was communicated not only to those parties, but also to the police officers that Colin and I were liaising with on Thursday. Look, if things continue to, if things continue to stay bad or deteriorate further, go ahead, pull the project. So that message, I believe, was heard loud and clear. So. Okay, we covered PSE&G, electricity. So we got gas, cable, electricity, and water. Any utilities we're missing? No?
Sewer.
Oh, no. Well, sewer's okay. Sewer's good, except for stepping outside. There, it's not so good. Pluckman Park Housing, Doug, you covered that, so thank you. And Robin on that. Township Committee comments. Committeeman Stevenson.
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Mayor, no comments. Thank you.
Also,
Gene?
no comment. Thank you.
Okay, we do have an executive session. We will be considering a matter and that may take the form of a resolution after the executive session. So there's no one on Zoom. But Jake, you're certainly welcome to stick around if you want to see us follow up on that last resolution. So what I suggest we do is, Jake, if you don't mind, if you are going to stick around, we're going to kick you out of the room. You're more than welcome to stick around. Hopefully we're not in exec long. And so may we have a motion to adjourn to executive session
So moved.
For purposes of personnel.
For purposes of considering a personnel matter.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's 10:36 and we will adjourn to executive session.
Okay.
And Jake, we'll wait for you to leave. And you got that?
Boomer sooner.
Yes.
Well, congrats.
Okay, there you go.
So he's not coming back.
I do need
Good night,
to,
Jake.
Okay, Jake.
Night, Jake.
I do need to move this over to a breakout room for
Okay.
recording
Want me to shut the
purposes.
door?
So give me one moment.
Right.
Okay, it is 11:20 and the Township Committee is back from our executive session and we are back in open session. And we, excuse me, we do have one resolution to consider, which is resolution number 2021-125. This resolution appoints a full-time administrative assistant. This position would be offered to, well, will be offered if it's approved, to Caitlin Vettel to fill the administrative assistant receptionist position in Town Hall. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
That concludes our business for the night. We
Move to
would motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye, Gina.
Thank you.
Aye.
Hi, Chief. Feel better?
Thanks for having me.
Anytime.